It's like, what do you guys do? And perfect precision.
And like sometimes you'll see like these corners where just a tiny bit of stone is jutting up and then the other two are connecting into it. It's like, this is such a ridiculous level of complexity for an apparent 600-year ago Bronze Age, bronze chisels and stone hammer tool wielding civilization.
Yeah.
And also in Peru is what I find very interesting is you've got a brilliant visual contrast to use when you look at what is the Inca work, which is the rough cut stone, the mortar brick using walls. Like, this is all present in Peru next to the megalithic sites, and the mainstream will attribute all of this to the Inca of 600 years ago, but you'll see that the stone walls that are rough cut and use cement and mortar, they're still standing, they're pretty pristine, they're looking good, next to megalithic multi-ton slabs of granite that are broken to pieces and strewn across the hillside. So it just looks like there was a lot of desolation, potentially geological trauma in this area, and then these people, the Inca, discovered these sites, built around them. You can see in like the cracks and corners of all these megaliths, there's like stone walls that they've tried to kind of, reinforce. It's very visually obvious, actually, when you go out to these places.
Isn't it fascinating that people aren't willing to consider the possibility that this is from an older time? Like that, it's heresy.
It's just such a knee-jerk reaction, man. Like, I think at the end of the day, we're still using models from like 1800s explorers, right? And it's like, what the fuck? Like, we've moved forward. There's a lot of contradicting evidence and data in a lot of these countries, whether it be Göbekli Tepe in Turkey or the potential infrastructure below the Giza Plateau, and then the incredible megaliths in Peru, like Sacsayhuaman. It just feels like what we're doing is rehashing the same status quo orthodoxy, and it's coming up against ever piling higher mountain of evidence. And one of the cool things that I got to do out in Peru was go to Sacsayhuaman, where they've got current archaeological digs going on through the Chincana project, which is an archaeological team out there, and they're doing digs, and they have actually discovered below, like 10 meters down into the ground, precision carved blocks of stone that are coming out of the earth. And this is where, in this region, in Cusco, the Andean legends are that there is a vast labyrinth below ground connecting Cusco to Sacsayhuaman, connecting Sacsayhuaman to the Sacred Valley, all spreading out across the Andean mountain range. And this is like an old legend. This is what the shamans and the sacred keepers of knowledge would say in Peru. We're finding evidence for it. We're literally going underground now and seeing that there are actually really precise elements of infrastructure below Sacsayhuaman, and they're just beginning to uncover this. I was one of the first to go down there and actually see these blocks myself, and it's just like, this is happening now. And, we're actually getting to a place where we can start to validate some of these forgotten myths and folklores, or if you want to call them conspiracies or pseudoscience from the archaeological side of things. It's being evidenced now.
That's mad. So these tunnels and what is exactly the structure that's supposed to be down there, and what have they discovered?
So it's supposed to be called the Chincana, the labyrinth, and there's a few different Chincana entrances around the region.
How big is it supposed to be?
Vast, multiple kilometers, is stretching from down Sacsayhuaman down into Cusco and then off into the Andean mountain range to the Sacred Valley.
It's very similar to some of the stuff that they found in Egypt.
Yes. Yes. And then what's interesting is you have the same hallmarks and signatures that you see in Egypt. So you see the stone knobs, these little protrusions that you get. I'm addicted to those, man, because they are all over the world.
Do you have any theories?
I mean, I've listened to a lot of theories. I certainly think that
we should show an image of it.
Yeah, like stone knobs.
There's all these incredible, massive stones that have been somehow or another moved from a quarry, sometimes that were hundreds of miles away. They all have these weird nubs on them, and no one knows what they are. And there's a bunch of theories, like maybe they help them move.
Yeah, there we go.
You see them all over the place. And no one quite knows what those are.
In India, you see them in Egypt, you see them in Peru. This is in Ollantaytambo in the Sacred Valley.
This is one of the things that's so infuriating about people that are arrogant about gatekeeping information and being the only ones that are allowed to distribute the truth,
Right.
air quotes,
Right.
we're missing so much.
Yeah.
There's no way you really know.
Huge gaps of knowledge.
We're
Huge.
missing so much, and more time goes on, as Graham Hancock always says, shit just keeps getting older. And now they just push back the use of fire by 300,000 plus years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like, it just keeps going. It's not going forward.
No.
It's going backwards.
And anatomically modern humans, I think, have gone much further back now in time. They're looking at 800,000 years.
Yes, plus.
So, plus. Yeah.
Possibly even a million. This is what weirds me out about these creatures. Like, human beings have gotten to the point multiple times where we were almost extinct. The Toba volcano, I think we got down to, God, was it 7,000 people? Is that like the low estimate?
Damn, really?
Yeah, it's a crazy story. Like, super volcanoes are unbelievably devastating to just all life, because it just changes the temperature of the earth, the entire surface, whatever doesn't get blasted out of the ground by the actual volcano itself. All the other stuff on the other side of the world gets fucked. Like, it just ruins everything. We got down to like a few thousand people. And then there was another time where one of these guys who came, God, I forget who that was as well. We were talking about the reality of glaciation,
Right.
and about what happens during ice ages and how devastating it can be. And they're saying that we had gotten at least multiple times in the history of the Earth to the point where it was incapable of sustaining life. But within a few, like whatever parts per million of carbon dioxide are necessary to support plant life, we literally got to the part where there was almost impossible to support life. And then it rebounded, and everything's fine. So there's so much we don't know.
Absolutely, man.
So crazy to try to pretend that people 600 years ago made this. Because we know people 600 years ago lived there. We have a lot of archaeological evidence, and you have weird structures on top of obviously much more intricate and complex structures.
Yeah, and again, they share the same signatures as places like in Egypt and India.
They think you're a kook.
Yeah, they do. And it's just a knee-jerk reaction. It's adherence to a status quo, and you get channeled through a very kind of fine wall in academia, and I think that it can be a real detriment actually to opening up your ideas and being a little bit more expansive with what could be possible, because you do get put into a very restrictive format in the traditional academic sense. And then obviously you have the pressures of funding and things like this, and you're not going to get the funding if you're talking about this crazy shit, and it's just like a self-fulfilling censoring, but it's with the rise of alternative media, we're changing the game a bit, because you can actually put a voice out there, you can put an idea out there. It's not completely stonewalled by the academic circle. They can't actually prevent people from discussing these ideas in an open media format like this.
Right, and if you put a video like you did on X or on YouTube, people can, like the video that you did on the aliens, whatever they are, people can see the CT scans.
Exactly.
You see the CT scans, and you're automatically go, wait a minute, this is 1,200 years old?
Yeah,
So you're telling me someone faked this 1,200 years ago? Like, I don't think they could fake that now. You don't get,
I don't think they could.
Hollywood special effects guys, but then the composition of the actual, the bones and everything.
Like cartilage and muscle tissue, and
how would you fake that?
Circling back, I texted Jesse to ask him for some insight on what he asked for.
Yeah.
So what he sent me was a screenshot of a book where he got it from.
Thanks,
I had to translate. Translation here shows
science of insemination.
Yeah, Jumana, I guess is the local word. So it's a local word for what that area is called.
Right.
And this is a book he found from that area, I think. And it says, Laboratory of Insemination and Cloning.
What?
That's what I'm saying.
Look at all these terms. They use Yuma, equals to semen. Yume equals verb to inseminate. Yumage, the science of insemination. Yumapaj, wise inseminator. Yuma, scion or clone.
That's what I'm saying, bro.
Jume, to clone. Jumaj, the science of cloning, and Jumpaj, wise cloner.
So basically,
what the fuck, man?
It's there. It's interesting, and then obviously
go back to that, please.
You get alongside this kind of description, you have these bodies, you have this.
Bro, this is mad.
Yeah, like this was like one little 10-second clip in his documentary, and it just made me perk up. Like, wait a minute, what?
The name of the place is like a laboratory of insemination and cloning.
And then getting a smorgasbord of different beings coming out of this area, right?
What?
Yes, he does add. I think he's speculating somewhat on the etymology, not definitive. But
Oh, right.
But yeah, I mean, it's there.
That's
and
why
it's
Jesse's better at this than me. I'm like, Earth done itself is there. Wow,
But
that
it is
so
interesting.
nuts.
Yeah, it is interesting, and I think it does. Yeah, it leads into what was happening on this planet a long time ago.
It doesn't. It leads like my point was when I was getting to the whole super volcano thing.
Yeah.
What if something happened that wiped that species out?
Right.
Like clearly, there's no more Neanderthals, right? Whatever happened, whether it was us or disease or whatever killed them off, they don't exist anymore. We only have evidence of people that are bred with them. What is that thing? Is that thing maybe one of us, like another kind of human? Look, another kind of primate. Look how different we are than rhesus monkeys, right? Like we're all primates. We're so fucking different. Why would we assume that the ones that we found so far, including like, what did they find Denisovans like 15 years ago or something like that?
Right.
And then Homo juliensis, what was that one? That was just a few years ago. Like they keep finding these new versions of people. Not new, obviously.
No.
But long extinct versions of people.
I think it's possible, and I also think that there's a potential. What if a particular subroot species of hominid decided to opt in for subterranean living, and they escaped a lot of the surface world traumas, and were actually able to kind of maintain their society? I mean, look at all of the weird evidence we have of these vast underground cities. Derek Cool, you would love to go there. My God, could you imagine?
Said he just released a video on it. It's bananas.
Can you imagine renovating your house and fucking finding that?
Renovating your house and finding there's room for 20,000 people under your house.
Would you say anything?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I gotta think about where I live. It depends on where I live. If you live in a place where the government can just come and take your house,
Yeah, I'd be worried about that.
I would say it if I was in America. But if it was in America, what if I really like my house? And now my house is connected to
heritage site.
the fucking archaeologists want to come. Like, get out of my yard.
Exactly. But like, yeah, I think about this and I think about all of these different. Yeah, good. No, I'm happy to hear that.
I'm fucking around.
Happy to hear that. But it's interesting, and then you have the strange stories like from the Hopi tribe about the ant people that came during a time of cataclysm, and they brought them underground, and then they brought them back up. And there's a few like that. There was a really interesting podcast. It was years ago. I remember seeing this where they brought these two Amazonian shamans on the podcast, like full headdress. They spoke their own tribal language. They needed an interpreter in the room. And the guy asked them what they thought about aliens, and they didn't understand the question, didn't know what he meant by alien. He was like thumbing through this book, and he put up a picture of a grey, and the tribesman went, "Oh, that's Makunwapu. That's Makunwapu." And they had a whole story about how this was a human that became an ant that lives underground, and it can appear in the divine light, but you should be very careful with this being because it will take your soul underground, and you need a very good shaman to bring your soul back. And they were taking it real seriously. Like, yeah, dude. So it's like these tribal cultures, they know, man. They fucking know.
Well, I think there's an ancient memory in people. I think it's one of the reasons why these post-apocalypse movies are so popular. There's a lot of post-apocalypse movies where, like people, they figure out how to make houses out of wood again, and they're surviving. They make little encampments, and they fight off the intruders from the outside. Real like Walking Dead type shit with no zombies. I think there's a memory in us of the surviving humans. I think there's a memory. And I think we probably have been through some terrible moments in the Earth's history where there was an enormous disaster, and we are the ancestors of the survivors, and I don't think there was a lot of survivors.
No. In fact, I heard you talking about that the other day where you were saying about and it's something I agree with, the necessity for post-cataclysm, post-apocalypse. The strong men would inherit the earth.
Monsters would
inherit the earth, right? And so if we really were a hyper-advanced Atlantean type civilization prior to this, maybe even more matriarchal than patriarchal, it would make sense that when things fall apart, obviously, and now you need to survive in the wild, the strong men and the savage guys would inherit the earth, because they would be the ones who would be able to push through that type of environment. And then if that is the case, and you fast forward to where we are now, look at our incredibly competitive, hyper kind of aggressive culture that we have, it would make sense that this was formed through the seeds of trauma and through the seeds of having to fight for survival and recovering what was lost.
Yes, which also makes sense why the past, the further you go back, the more barbaric these people are. You're dealing, and you're like, well, it took a while for people to learn, maybe, but maybe you're dealing with people that had to. They probably had cannibalized. I mean, they probably had to eat everything they could. There was only a few thousand of them left. And if we really got hit by asteroids, like the Younger Dryas is correct, it makes sense that it would take like 5,000 years for civilization to emerge again. Because that seems to be what happened. It seems to be like you have literally the scraggliest survivors, and then eventually the Earth gets back to normal. But even then, it takes thousands of years for people to just have a semblance of what we're experiencing today in terms of civilization.
And that's why prehistory is so fascinating, and the Neolithic and the Stone Age. Because, okay, so this is a time when we were just basic hunter-gatherers. We had no intelligence, no language, no real understanding of the world, according to the mainstream. But this is where you have multi-ton, geodetically aligned solar equinox and what's the lunar alignment. I've completely just blanked just because I'm a little bit nervous being on it. Like equinox alignment and like alignments to the sun and the moon, mathematically, geodetically aligned to what look like telluric currents, like electromagnetic flows beneath the ground. A lot of these stone henges and dolmens are placed on places where you have strong electromagnetic concentrations. And just the package of mathematics and engineering and stone crafting and the knowledge of the sun and the stars and your placement on the planet to create things like Stonehenge and these other areas in the world. How can you do that if you're just hunter-gatherers coming out of animalistic behavior? It doesn't make any sense. And then we kind of regress as we go further into history, and the stonework becomes less impressive, the things become less accurate. And I find that very interesting. How is it at the beginnings of our history some of the most impressive structures exist?
Exactly. It doesn't make any sense. Just Egypt alone with the conventional timeline of 2,500 BC for the Great Pyramid doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. I think that they most likely settled around those pyramids.
Most
likely settled around them. And the scans, if these can be validated fully and empirically with digs and confirmation physically, then that changes everything.
It changes everything. You're seeing a lot of people spaz out online.
Oh yeah.
Wonderful to watch. It's been wonderful to watch because when people are under pressure, their real character gets revealed.
Right.
And they're under a lot of pressure right now because those scans, that radio tomography or whatever the fuck it is,
synthetic aperture radar,
it's super accurate with stuff that we know exists.
Yes.
That's what's a real problem for these people. You want to believe it exists when it can map out all these chambers in the pyramid. You want to believe it exists when it can map out things that we know that exist 50 feet underground. You want to map? You're cool with that.
Yeah. But 1 kilometer of subterranean. Yeah. Oh no.
Also,
no.
multiple scans from multiple,
like over 200.
Yes, it's all the same message.
Yes.
They're getting the same message. There's pillars, enormous pillars. They have coils around them. What? Pillars with coils. All of them have coils.
Yeah, dude.
And the whole structure is like almost 2 kilometers deep into the earth.
It's obscene. Like laterally as well, like 2 kilometers of infrastructure. It's like the whole underground.
Explain. Help me out.
Exactly.
People with copper tools, help me out.
And that was my frustration when it first came out, because when it came out, obviously I did some like research into the people involved in the Khafre Pyramid team. I found Filippo Bionde. I found his Harmonic SAR website where it has listed the things like the Mosul Dam in Iraq and the Gran Sasso Laboratory in Italy, places that they'd actually done scans prior to even the Great Pyramid, which was peer reviewed. Their 2020 scan of of the Great Pyramid was a peer-reviewed paper. And then you fast forward to now, where they've got these ones, and you have people like, Flint Dibble on Piers Morgan going, it's bullshit, it's pseudoscience, it's never been done before, it's never been tested. And it's like, well, it has been done, it has been tested, it's actually got a patent, it's been peer-reviewed in a paper.
Military applications.
Military applications. And Filippo Bionde, he works for the Italian government. Like, he's not some idiot. He's a very, very intelligent man, and he can speak on the science of this, like, articulately. So
he works on top secret projects in the
yes,
Italian
I
military.
don't know if you caught like that little scene in Jesse.
Yes,
where he was just
it's like
he didn't even say a fucking
he
word,
didn't,
man. Like, not
can we not talk about that? He just looks at him.
Not
He's
a
like,
word.
okay, we'll just
Not
I
a
guess
word.
figure that out.
Like that's when you know, man. That's when you know. But
But I
he's,
mean,
yeah.
whatever this is, everyone should be fascinated. You shouldn't be dismissing this if that's not even your field of expertise.
Yeah.
It just shows what kind of a fucking weirdo you are. Like, what you should be doing is going, okay, how many scans do you have?
Yeah.
You have 200 scans of this? Show me more. Show me more. Tell me what's going on.
Yeah.
We should probably figure out what that is. Imagine if the pyramids didn't exist, or imagine if it's like, the Sphinx at one point in time was mostly covered with sand.
Yep.
Let's just imagine some crazy scenario where the entire pyramid structure is covered in sand and nobody knows it exists. And then someone comes along and does a scan of the surface of the ground and says, you're not going to fucking believe this. There's some shit under there. Now, what if everybody goes, that's ridiculous, that's preposterous, and they don't look.
Exactly.
And they don't look. We never find the thing that we all agree exists. Because you can go there, you can visit.
Right.
It's there, right? If that didn't exist, you'd never fucking believe in a million years there's a structure with 2,300,000 stones that's perfectly aligned, the true north, south, east, and west, and you're dating it to somewhere around 4,000.
I mean, that sounds like some pseudoscience conspiracy talk to me, John.
Sounds like
exactly right.
kookiness.
Right.
Why is it more kooky to say these people not only were this advanced, they were even more advanced?
Yeah.
They were down into the ground, 2 kilometers. It might have been a power station.
Well, Filippo thinks that. He seems to think that the spirals might have been tied to hydrology, mechanical stress, and the piezoelectric, the Great Pyramid and the plateau itself, because what you have is a very interesting coupling between limestone and rose granite. So limestone is a very good amplifier of acoustics, and rose granite becomes electrical, piezoelectric under mechanical stress, and acoustics are a form of mechanical stress. So there's like certainly something to be said about the fact that the pyramids are acoustically tuned. Like, they're incredible inside the acoustics, and they've done lots of measurements and experiments on validating that up to the King's Chamber. And then the King's Chamber itself, I believe, is focused around 110 to 150 hertz, which is interesting for neurological reasons in terms of influencing the brain. But on top of that, you have, again, this incredible coupling between limestone and rose quartz granite, where under the right conditions, you absolutely could get energetic responses from that. But as well as this, you have the hydrological knowledge, which is really quite impressive. And when you look at places like the Osirian in Abydos, which is a kind of sunken down temple, we call everything a temple or a sacred site, but we really don't know, do we? There could be functional sites, could be a power plant of some form, like you said. And the Assyrian in Abydos, next to it, you have the Seti I temple, which is incredible. It's beautiful and full of calligraphy and hieroglyphics. And then you have this bare, faceless, megalithic place called the Osirian, which is sunken down into the ground, perpetually filled with water. So they've tried to pump it out, and it just into the water table, and there's all these different shafts and hydrological kind of components in this site that they don't understand the full function of. And then you look at places like the Great Pyramid, where you go down to the bottom of the Great Pyramid, you have like the kind of core, and this whole area looks like it's been water eroded, as if it was flooded out repeatedly and used as some sort of like a pump or some sort of like sequencing area where you push water in and then let it out, push water in and let it out. And so Filippo thinks that maybe these spirals bringing water up, and if you're 1,000 meters down, you're tapping into like ancient aquifers. So you could be drawing up a really impressive amount of ancient water. And I just wonder if, same with Peru, there's something incredibly important about accessing this kind of water in the real depths of the earth, and they seem to have a real interest in doing that. So perhaps the pyramids are in some way like, if these spirals are real, it's like a plug, isn't it? It's like plugged into the earth, connected down into these aquifers. Perhaps water as an energetic medium through the materials.
I would recommend to anybody to check out Christopher Dunn's work.
Oh, fantastic.
I had him on the podcast, and he explained to us his theory. He's an engineer,
Yeah.
and he started studying the structure of the pyramid, and his conclusion was the entire thing was probably used to generate energy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what? But when he breaks it down in terms of, I'll butcher the math if I even try, but in terms of the dimensions, the way it's made, and the fact that you could have something that was down in the basement that was somehow or another creating a resonance.
Right.
That would have this effect, the shafts would go out straight out into space, and the fact that there's evidence that they would possibly use these shafts to pour chemicals in, and it would create gases and.
Well, this is
pretty nuts.
It is nuts, but I was not the last time I was out in Egypt, but the time before then, I was out there with a guy called Jeffrey Drum. He's got a YouTube channel called The Land of Chem, and he's all about this in terms of the chemical mass manufacturing that he believes was going on in the pyramids and these other areas. And we filmed all of the coverage of that. If anyone wants to go see it on my YouTube channel, taking us through areas in the Giza Plateau where you have an incredible concentration on the Giza Plateau of iron veins. And they all seem to be emanating from the pyramids. So if you go around the pyramids, you'll see these iron vein networks sort of flowing out from the central point. And these iron veins are heading down into what are called these boat pits.
When you say iron veins, so like
iron ore.
Iron ore.
Yeah,
it's deep in the ground.
I mean, it's on the surface, so you can actually see the snaking it out and oxidize, and you can make it out, but surely it must be deeper as well. But it seems to be stretching out from the pyramids down into these.
Like it's emanating from the pyramids.
So his theory is that they built the pyramids. Yeah. His theory is that they built the pyramids on top of these iron veins, particularly because this place was getting lightning strikes frequently.
Oh boy!
Yeah, I know.
It's a giant lightning rod,
dude. I mean, these things are built in a way, and they were gold capped at one point.
Right, and gold is a really good conductor
of electricity
for electronics.
And the Giza Plateau is covered in these conductive iron vein networks, which the pyramids do seem to be built upon. Now, this is his personal theory, but he's an American who's been living out in Cairo now for about 6 or 7 years, I believe. He just decided to up and move out there and dedicate his life to exploring these places. And so he took us across all of these amazing areas and showed us things I'd never seen before in Egypt. But his theory on the pyramids is similar to Christopher Dunn in terms of some form of chemical manufacturing taking place. And if you know the original name for Egypt was Kemet, that's why this guy's got his YouTube channel, The Land of Chem. Kemet is the beginning of chemistry and alchemy. So this is one of the root words where we then got chemistry and alchemy from. So it is the land of chemistry and alchemy. And
that's bananas.
There you go. Is this? This is one of his videos. Great.
Iron ore.
So these are these iron veins. They believed in mainstream interpretation.
It freaked me out with the Land of Chem. That is crazy. But when
I don't know named that, but it was the ancient.
Mr. Aquarius, what are you saying?
There's reference to being called Kemet, Kheme. It's what people believe is the continuation of alchemy and chemistry, because you get so much alchemy from, obviously, you get Hermes Trismegistus, the stones. Suggest this. Plus, we actually know in the mainstream incredible chemists like we know that we're using acids, natron, and things like this. Like Egyptians knew what they understand, regardless. Getting a little bit deeper into it, but yeah.
Right, and you're talking about Egyptians like Cleopatra times,
right? So like we know that they were doing it
historically,
exactly.
Yeah. That's why it's so strange. Like, if this structure is proved to be real, if they start an excavation and they have irrefutable proof, like without a doubt, there's some man-made structures that are beyond description underneath the ground. What happens now? Like, what does everybody do? Like, what do all these dorks that think that that's a tomb? What do you do?
What do you
do to all those dorks that think like it makes sense that they built that? It was a national pastime. It's a national project. Come on, bro. Settle the fuck down.
I think at that point you have to.
Well, I think the pyramids uniquely stand as like an intelligence test because they are so crazy. When you have stones that are so large that are taken from quarries hundreds of miles away, a lot of these people supposedly didn't even have the wheel. So what is this? You don't think this is crazy? Like this isn't like, oh, we know they used the wood from these trees to build these homes. Like this is bananas.
Yeah, hold up a level.
This is something that would take us hundreds of years today to build.
And one of the things that is said so much, but I guess it's kind of shrugged off just because it's said so much, but it's actually a really important point to highlight. There are no fucking hieroglyphs in the pyramids. Not one. There's not a single symbol, not a single element of what we would understand to be dynastic Egypt. And so, like, you have this incredible contradiction when you go to places like the Valley of the Kings and the Valley of the Queens. Gold, and it's adorned in patterns. You can't see a square inch of stone where there isn't something filled to venerate these people, and yet the pyramids are bare. And when you go inside them, you're gonna go to Egypt. You're gonna go
eventually.
Yeah. When you go inside them, it just feels mechanical. It feels functional. It's big portcullises of rose granite and these shafts going off perfectly vertical off until you can't even see, and there's nothing about it that feels spiritual or funerary at all.
Just looking at it, it looks to me like an advancement of what we are that's almost like indescribable, like a 1,000-year advancement of where we are currently to build something like that.
Right.
It seems so nuts. And there's obviously stuff that doesn't seem as nuts. It's just beautiful and impressive.
Right.
Just like the Colosseum in Rome is.
Exactly.
Or like, the Acropolis.
Mm-hmm.
All those things are fascinating and incredible. Craftsmanship and engineering and architecture. Amazing.
Yeah.
But then there's Egypt and you go, shut the fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is that? That's nuts.
Yeah, and I resent the idea that we're like taking it away from them. It's like, let's just be logical about this and actually assess the toolkit and assess the capabilities and then look at the evidence of what we're seeing.
Also, we're not,
huge
because
errors.
it's people that lived in the same place. So it's literally just the older versions of them.
Right.
It's not like you're saying, Chinese people came and they did it all and then they flew back.
Exactly.
No, that's not what anybody's saying.
We're just saying it's your more ancient ancestors.
Yeah, it's your ancestors. We're just, the timeline's off.
Mm-hmm.
The timeline seems funky. Clearly, there were some amazing things that the Egyptians did during the accepted timeline. I mean, they were a fascinating culture.
Amazing.
All through till the end, right? But when you go really far back, whatever that is nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're saying that you know exactly when it was dated, when there's so much evidence of just today, modern, doing these reconstructions and fixing and all the feet of the Sphinx, and they're covering it with new fucking rocks. Like, they've always been doing renovations. They always do. So all this stuff that you're saying, like, we got a piece of wood from inside one of the cracks, like, bitch, that doesn't mean anything.
Exactly.
You can't date those rocks.
No.
Unless you get under those motherfuckers to the bottom and take a chunk of organic material from deep underneath that thing so you can know when the first stones are placed, you don't know. You're guessing.
And I think that's why we're coming to a point now where there's such resistance from the mainstream when you see scans like this, because they've built themselves into a wall. We basically have to admit, we're just fucking wrong.
You're also seeing,
like,
them confronted by real evidence.
Yeah.
Like real evidence. And like, just when someone takes you for a walk inside the king's chamber and you look up at those stones, that somehow they go like, how high are they in the sky? How high are they in the ceiling? How high are they? Do you remember?
Oh God, no, I don't. Sorry.
What, 80-ton stones?
Yeah, 80 tons in the king's chamber. 80 tons.
How tall?
And that's near the apex. That is near the apex.
Jamie, please put this into perplexity. How tall is the ceiling inside the king's chamber in the Great Pyramid? Because these things are perfectly placed in there. Like, even if you drag those somehow or another across the mountains for 500 miles and got it to the pyramid, how the fuck did you get it up there?
Exactly.
How'd you get them all to line up? How many people got squished? The chamber itself spans 10.5 meters long by 5.2 meters wide. How tall is the ceiling? 19 feet. Shut the fuck up.
But it's also near the top of the pyramid. It's incredibly high up in the pyramid as well. They have to lift it to that point.
You have to get these 80-ton blocks 19 feet and then place them perfectly.
And there's absolutely, again, there's nothing kingly about the king's chamber at all. It's just completely a bare room of rose granite with this sarcophagus coming up out of the floor with a huge chunk missing. And actually, if you look at where that huge chunk is missing and you turn around and you look at the wall, there's actually a massive impact on the wall. There's like a big part of the wall has been broken off. So it makes you wonder if maybe that was jettisoned off at some point from power. Or,
so what do you think is in that, what they call the sarcophagus? Do you have a theory?
I mean, I've been inside it. There's nothing inside of it.
You got in it?
Yeah, I laid down inside of it with a Grand Master of the Templar Order chanting over me.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. That was my first trip to Egypt.
You're going to take a video of that, put it up on X, and no one's ever going to take you seriously.
Yeah, no, right.
Well, this guy's a fucking kook.
I am a kook.
Well, you have to be a kook.
You know, yeah.
You have to be a kook to really enjoy this.
And you have to be on the fringe. And also, I think some of the most impressive scientists and creators have been people on the fringe who are laughed at by all their peers.
Well, especially now, because the way universities work is essentially there's a person that is the most important person in that field, right, at that university. And there's a bunch of people that want grants, and there's a bunch of people that want to play nice, and they want the career, they want tenure, and you got to be careful whose toes you step on. And if this one guy is the gatekeeper of it, or a group of guys like him at various universities are the gatekeepers to this information, you got to come up with the current bottleneck problem that we see, where people are not just unwilling, but aggressively attacking people who question this. Which is why they call it Graham Hancock's show the most dangerous show on television. Like, that is so crazy. You have so many shows where people get murdered.
That's the best way to make a show go viral, though, isn't it? Best way to make a show go viral. Don't fucking watch this show. Like, you know what I mean?
Great job.
Great job on the
They did a great job.
Well, it does bring up a disturbing and worrying element of it, just how quickly the mainstream media in various outlets all aligned at once to call him everything from a racist to a pseudoscientist to a conspiracy theorist. And, it's an alarming kickback that he's taken in his stride. Profoundly.
He's a wonderful guy.
He's great. I can't wait to speak to him. I literally missed him by like 3 days when I went out to Peru. I was gutted.
He was my first real guest.
Yeah, he was, wasn't he?
Yeah, me and him Duncan.
Oh my god, that must have been
flew in from England. We got him to drive to my house.
Yeah.
And then once he got to my house, we ordered pizza. We all ate pizza. I couldn't believe I'm hanging out with Graham Hancock. I was so giddy. It was like one of the first actual guests.
Giddy moments, like, you're just like, I can't believe I'm actually sitting with this dude.
Yeah, because the guests before that had mostly been comics.
Right.
Or some person that I thought was interesting. Some guy that I met at the Comedy Store. I'm like, what do you do? You're a therapist, and what do you give people? How's it work? Come on over.
Come and talk to me about it.
Yeah, I did a lot of those. But he was, I think, the first real guest.
Was there like a choice, like a conscious decision for you to kind of like evolve it from just comedians talking shop to actually getting different guests on from a variety of subjects? Because I know you're a curious person and you've probably been researching these things even at the point before you were doing that kind of podcast. Clearly you were, but what was the natural evolution of that for you?
Well, I was always into books about ancient history and whether it's like modernly commonly accepted narrative or Graham Hancock stuff. But I got into Graham Hancock stuff I think in the 90s. Fingerprints of the Gods came out, and I fucking loved it. I was so fascinated by it. I couldn't shut the fuck up about it. I would tell people, like, you got to see this. Like, I think this guy's right. I think we are a history with amnesia, or a race with amnesia. And then, of course, I watched Chariots of the Gods, that film, which I thought was very kooky and fun. It's very campy and fun. And here's the thing about that. I dismissed it for a long time, and I said it's nonsense. And I actually had lunch once. Eric Weinstein took me to lunch at Peter Thiel's house, where we talked to Von Daniken. And it was fun conversation, interesting. I'm talking to, he's a full-on true believer.
Von Daniken? Fully.
Of the alien theory, the ancient aliens theory. And I've gone in like multiple stages in my cognitive dissonance. And for a while, I was all in with the aliens.
I hear you. I'm the same, though.
And then for a while, I was like, no. There was an advanced civilization, and we're just a rebuilding of that civilization. And that's probably why we're so barbaric. And now I'm like, why are they mutually exclusive?
Right. It could be a mix.
Yeah, I don't think they are mutually exclusive.
At one point, the gods walked amongst us. You know?
Right. And that's when I see the things like the tridactyl mummies, and I'm like, okay. What is that? What are we talking? Why is Peru so weird? Why do they have artwork that you can only see from the sky? Like, there's a lot of weird shit going on here. Like, don't be so quick to jump.
Exactly.
So, but my point is, like, I have always been fascinated by stories. First of all, any subject that makes you ridiculous for considering it. I'm always like, what's that about?
Yeah.
Why is that
Scratch
ridiculous?
that itch a little bit.
Even the cookie ones, like ghosts.
Yeah.
Bigfoot. All the cookie ones.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? What's the resistance?
I had a
talk
Russian
about
astronaut tell me a Bigfoot story.
Yeah, exactly.
Pinch of salt, but he claimed that he'd been told this by a military guy out in Russia that they were in the rec room of this like Air Force base, and apparently, this is according to this Russian astronaut trainer at the Yuri Gagarin Space Center in Moscow, and he said that this Yeti Sasquatch type being apparently just walked into their rec room, helped itself to some water from the water thing, waved, and then vanished. I don't know.
So this guy, what was his job?
He was a trainer of astronauts at the Yuri Gagarin Space Center in Star City, Moscow.
Bro, they probably dosed him up with
I bet they did.
MK Ultra drugs.
Yeah. I mean,
If you hold on to that kind of information,
interesting
they'll
story.
probably experiment on you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they probably gave that guy some
I've
acid.
never given the Sasquatch thing its due course in researching it. To be honest, I've been very dismissive of that. But maybe
I have.
Maybe, you know,
I have.
the
I spent
demographic
years with. I used to have a Sasquatch Bigfoot footprint, like a cast, like a plaster cast on the desk. That rest in peace, Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum, who just recently died. I had him on as a guest on the show once too. He's so crazy. I asked him if he was so crazy, but in a wonderful way. I said, if you could cut a finger off to know that Sasquatch was real, would you do it? He was like, yes. I was like, what the fuck? It's your finger. Don't say yes to that. The information just comes out. You don't have to lose a finger.
Damn it. It's just sitting there without a finger.
I think Bigfoot was a real thing.
Yeah?
I think that's why there's so, like...
Do you think it's just like some sort of like branch of creature? Because there's so many people think it's like an interdimensional being or...
It could be that too, but I think it's Gigantopithecus.
Yeah.
Gigantopithecus was an absolute real thing that we didn't even know existed until I believe it was the 20s.
Yeah, around there.
Guy found its teeth in an apothecary shop in China, and they started researching it and finding where the dig sites were. And, they found jaw bones that indicate that it was bipedal. So this is a bipedal hominid that's 8 to 10 feet tall.
Yeah.
What is that? That's Bigfoot.
That is Bigfoot.
And that's probably, and also this thing 100% lived around modern human beings. Like what we are today, it lived around us. So imagine you see one of those things. Well, first of all, you're going to fucking run like hell. You're going to have stories. This thing lives in the woods or in the jungle. Stay out of this spot. That's where this thing lives. And that's going to be passed on from generation to generation to generation until even after they're gone, now it's just a whisper. Now it's just a thing. It's a mystery man that lives in the woods.
Are they like antiquated Bigfoot stories, like outside of just modern?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Especially Native American cultures.
Oh,
that's what's interesting is like Native American tribes. There's multiple, obviously, many different tribes, many different languages, right? They all have a word for this thing. Let's put this into perplexity.
Yeah.
How many different Native American names are there for Bigfoot? Because I believe Sasquatch is a Native American. I don't know which tribe had that, but there's multiple different names for this hairy creature that lives in the woods. But they don't have names for like a giraffe that lives in the woods. They don't have like other mystical animals, mythical creatures. They just have this one.
Yeah.
And this one is a fucking weird one.
Well, that's what I mean with the interdimensional aspect. It's treated different from just an animal, even if
That might be real too. This is part of the problem.
Yeah.
It's like we might be dealing with multiple different things. It might not even be Gigantopithecus. Sasquatch, Skookum, that's right, I heard that. Oma, that's right, there was a movie called Oma. The guy who did the American Werewolf in London.
That's just the last word to say when you see a Bigfoot. Oma!
Oh, yeah. Chai Tanka, Zik, big elder brother,
70 to 80 names.
wicked cannibal. Oh boy, Windago, wicked
Yeah,
cannibal.
Wendigo. I've heard that one.
Wendigo.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And Yetisho. How to say that? Yetiso.
Yeah,
Big
Yetiso.
God, and that's a
Navajo.
Navajo name. So there's a bunch of different. There's a bunch underneath that too.
Yeah, like so it's about 70 to 80 names when accounting for variants across 50 tribes.
Okay.
And it's the same with the alien graves, like the ant people.
Yes. Well, and then it brings to the same thing. Like it brings us to the same subject of what if there is a way to traverse dimensions?
Mm-hmm.
What if this is not as simple as something gets in a spaceship and it comes here? What if it's coming from another place? And what if that doorway is open to other things? And what if some of those things are Sasquatch? Like, and under the right conditions, this pathway is open.
Right.
And maybe it's not even something that it actually exists, but you can see. It exists in our tangible timeline, but you can see under heavy stress,
Right.
under like anxiety. And imagine, what gets you more stressed out than being in the woods at night, right? The woods at night creates a lot of anxiety for people because there's all these sounds and you're looking around, it's dark, you're vulnerable, especially if you live in real woods, like woods that have predators in it.
Right.
It's sketchy. And I bet there's different states of mind that you, if there's some sort of a possibility, some sort of a way that an intelligent creature can get to a point where it has the technology to access other dimensions, it can go into other spaces. Would you even be able to see it all the time? Or would you only be able to see it if you were like under a highly anxious state? In the woods, you're kind of a little freaked out, you're more open to weird things, and then it senses that and communicates with you.
Well, we are.
Sounds kooky.
We're dominated by our perception, and we have such a narrow bandwidth of visual perception. You know, you get up the whole light spectrum and look at visible light, just this tiny corridor of visible light that we're able to see. Obviously, we've developed IR and different kind of. If you film the night sky with infrared, you get weird shit. You get these orbs and things that seem to fly by, and I think that it is a perceptual thing because the reason I even started my YouTube channel is because I've had my own experiences with UFO type phenomena that were entirely initiated by me. Like I asked for them to come and they did.
See, that sounds kooky. I'll take that clip, but I dismiss you immediately. This guy's a
Can't
quack.
wait for it.
But this is one of the things that people have been saying for a long time, is that there's actual groups of people, and there was even some guy who was like, somehow or another connected to the government, that was saying that they meet these people out, they go out into the desert, and they have some sort of a secret frequency, if you want to discuss it, that they can push out, they can send out the secret frequency, and it'll call them in, and that other people have done it simply by willing them in.
That's what I
So sitting there and putting out this message that you're trying to communicate to them, and then eventually they show up.
Yeah, I can't speak to technologically assisted psionics and all that kind of stuff, but do you want to hear my UFO story? Okay.
First of all, where did you come up with this idea on your own, or did you hear about people doing this?
No, I heard of it from someone who's a quite polarizing figure in the UFO community. I know you've spoken to him, Dr. Stephen Greer.
Polarizing people are right sometimes.
He's right on this.
Yeah, they can be right on a lot of
He's
things.
right on this, and I know that a lot of people have issues with Greer, but he was actually my intro into the UFO subject. So I'll tell you the story. Sorry about my throat. I'm just taking a sip of water. So this was.
How did he find out about it?
It's a good question. He had a near-death experience, I believe, and from that was actually apparently communicated to and shown things that when he came out of that experience, he became a Samadhi type, teacher.
Of course.
Got profoundly interesting.
That's a great origin story.
Brilliant origin story. My origin story was I was really bored during COVID. No, so honestly though, it was actually in 2019 that I had these experiences, and I do think that it's very important to lay a bit of foundational groundwork because I think a lot of people will recognize this as well, and it's something that you mentioned with Bigfoot being in a high stress environment in the forest. Maybe that changes your perception. And I think that there's a degree of trauma and a degree of intense emotional moments that can bring about paranormal experiences. I don't know why, but it does seem to be something that a lot of people relate to. Yes, I was in a very dark time. Yes, I was having a very traumatic time. Or yes, I was going through something. And then this happened. And so for me, I was in my third year of university and struggling. Just had a whole mix of personal issues going on. So I ended up kind of dropping out before I finished and was in a really bad rut. And my dad was worried about me. And he said, look, I'm out in... it's a bit of a long story, but it's important to lay this foundation, I think, before I talk about what I actually experienced, because it plays in. My dad was worried. He was out in France at the time, and he said, look, do you want to come out and stay at this place with me and just kind of relax and bring yourself back to normal? So yeah, okay. So I came out, and he was like, I've got these books that I've been reading. I think they'd be really beneficial for you. You should read them. I was like, okay, I don't see how a book's going to change.
Does he often recommend books?
Not massively, no. In fact, no. This was the only time he recommended books, which is interesting. And they were a series of books called Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. Have you ever heard of them? No. Okay, so it's interesting. It kind of ties into, I suppose, with the channeled works, things that people believe they receive.
Oh, wait a minute, I have heard of this.
He's quite well known. He was a radio DJ, broke his neck in a car accident, became homeless, finally managed to get back on his feet, but was still struggling, wrote an angry letter to God, and then apparently woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and was having voices literally telling him to write things down. So he wrote all of this down, and this became Conversations with God. It's literally a dialogue of him asking questions and him receiving answers, which he interpreted as from God. Now, that is intense, and I'm definitely not here to say this is a Bible and everyone should read it. However, it was incredibly impactful for me at that time. The things I was reading about, it was a very different idea of God, universal consciousness leaning towards more than some weird patriarchal cloud living figure that just never made sense to me. So it got me in, and I was reading it, and it helped tremendously, weirdly enough, which I didn't expect. And that put me on a path towards researching metaphysics and philosophy and science and consciousness, and that's where it really started for me. But then a couple of years down the line, I found myself in another depression, in a sense, because I felt like I'd accumulated a lot of information about various different topics that I thought were these big questions and big answers and big esoteric things. And I just got to a point where I was like, none of this is actually helping me in my life. In fact, I'm actually feeling like fucking worse for looking into all this thing. I don't know how this is going to benefit me. So I was sitting on my bed one night, and I guess you could call it a prayer. I just sat on my bed and said out loud to the universe, I need something that validates all of this. If I'm meant to be looking into these big picture questions about the universe and consciousness, if there's something tangible here, I need to know, and I want evidence, I'm ready for it, so give me it, I want that. And then a week later, my best friend at the time, he was like, hey, I was watching this documentary, you've got to check it out. It's called Unacknowledged by this guy called Dr. Stephen Greer. And this is my first introduction to the UFO subject. So I was like, okay, cool. Sit down and watch that. Very good documentary. All of these different, high-level officers and missile launch guys talking about UFOs. It got me in. And then near the end of that is when he brings up this concept of CE5, initiating contact with these. You can actually have your own experiences by getting into a particular meditative state. If I hadn't been making that request on my bed the week prior, I probably just would have watched that documentary and gone about my life, but it felt like a very strong message to me personally, because I'd been asking for something to validate these ideas around consciousness. Now there's a guy saying, yeah, you can actually have an experience by going out and attempting to ask for one.
So talk me through the process of actually doing that.
So he has.
Did you get it on the first try?
No.
How many times did you try?
It was a weird gradual thing where things were happening in the sky that were enough to keep me going out, but not enough for me to be like, okay, this is legit.
So how many times did you go out before it worked?
Before I saw what I really, really saw, probably about a month of going out.
Damn, that's commitment.
But I was seeing things, but they weren't, it was kind of just enough to make me like, okay,
what were you seeing?
Lots of what the contact community call flashbulbs, flashes of light in the night sky in a void of space repeatedly without any discernible object attached to it, just one flash, and then send a thought, another flash, send a thought, another flash. And this happened multiple times. I've been somebody who watches the night sky all my life. I'm used to seeing satellites. I know
How
what
long
radio flares are. Maybe an hour, 2 hours.
And so you sit down. Are you seated?
No, I'd usually be standing with my neck craned to the sky, but I would be.
Why don't you get a lounge chair?
I don't know. I don't think about things properly sometimes when I do
But
this.
just lay down on the ground.
Just lay on the grass,
So
right?
you get a better view of the sky.
Yeah, but it's cold in England. And it was mildewy on the floor. It was not.
That's hard.
Yeah. But I was essentially, because of, again, asking the universe for something. The universe seemed to be giving me some sort of response. It kind of lit a fire up under me, and I started going outside. And honestly, a lot of people, like even Bria, has this incredibly complicated method using samadhi and doing various things. I didn't do any of that. I just breathed in through the nose and out through the mouth until I felt very calm, and then began to very clearly model my thoughts around the concept of I want something to respond to me. And then I would essentially visualize that was emanating from me, that these thoughts were emanating from me. And it didn't take very long before I'd have flashes of light in the sky that just seemed weird because I've never seen anything like that, or an incredible influx of what look and behave like satellites, but just at an incredibly high level, which is like, what's going on here? And it just felt like a kind of step-by-step progression until in August of 2019, I had 4 incredibly vivid and real experiences with orange orbs of light. Really profound.
What was that? What happened?
So I was outside. At this point, it had become my routine. It was in the summer of August, and it was relatively warm, so I was out doing this quite a lot, seeing little flashes, seeing things in the sky, trying to figure out what exactly it was that I was seeing. And I was standing at the back of my garden looking towards my house, night sky, crystal clear. And I saw at the beginning a flash of light in the corner of the sky. So I looked over and I saw this flash, another flash, another flash, and it was just blinking, but it was static in space. And then it started moving down. Every time it blinked, it would move further down. And I was observing this. And then it settled above 2 stars and kind of created the apex of a triangle. And it was just flashing above these 2 stars. And I was watching this for a while. And it happened for long enough where I just decided, all right, thank you, whatever you are. I'm just going to keep panning around the sky here and looking around. And as I panned my head, I saw that there was a cloud, but I didn't really look at it. And I turn around here, come back, and I see this cloud again. And this time I really look at it. And this cloud, Joe, had, so strange, it's like a dark cloud, but when you stared at it, it had a staticky appearance. It's very hard to describe other than imagine a light overlay of TV static. There was particles, it was agitated, it was shimmering. It was something, not a cloud, certainly not anything I've ever seen in my life. And if we pretend this microphone is my house and this cloud is here, it's drifting this way. So eventually it's going to drift past my house and go this way, at least according to its natural trajectory. It gets to my house and it does a right angle turn. And it starts coming towards me. So eventually it's going to be above my head, this cloud-like formation.
A cloud does a right angle turn in the sky.
Abrupt, as in 90 degrees. It's going like this, and now it's going like this towards you. High up in the sky, but it's now in my path. Complete 90-degree shift from its trajectory. And I saw it like a jarring, now it's going this way. Okay, so at this point I'm rooted in place. Not really scared, but I'm shocked at the fact that this thing did what it just did. And I'm watching as it's coming closer and closer, towards where I'm going to be. Eventually it's directly above my head. It sounds so crazy. And Terence McKenna said something like this. He was like, if you tell the unvarnished truth about a UFO experience, you'll be taken for a fool. And it's like, it's true. If you just tell people what really happened. But this is what really happened. So this cloud comes above my head. As it's directly above my head, this cloud like sucked into itself as if there was a central vacuum, a central point where it just got sucked into itself. And it revealed a triangle formation of about 25, maybe 30 orange balls of light in a triangle. And this triangle, basically the cloud went, triangle was revealed, it kept moving. I had to turn around and watch as it went off in this direction. And as I was watching it, I could see that some of these orbs were actually swapping formation, swapping position in this formation. And that was the first time I saw them. I saw them 3 other occasions, all within the space of a month after this. Weirdly enough, I woke up the next day, and this is the only element of the story, as crazy as the whole thing sounds, it's the only element that makes me personally uncomfortable. I was getting out of the shower, and as I was drying myself off, immediately noticed where this tattoo is now. There was a triangle mark of three red marks, one here, one here, one here. Very vivid, like
Then you covered it up with a tattoo?
well, it faded. It
Did you
faded
take
over
pictures
time.
of it?
I have taken pictures of it. Yeah.
Was it clear?
Yes.
Can I see it?
I can try and find them. Yeah, I haven't got my internet on right now. Jamie, if you go onto my X account and just type in J Anderson marks on arm, maybe that will come up. I'm sorry, I should have really sent that ahead of time, but I do have images online. People have seen them, and I've discussed it many times.
Did it look like a wound?
This is the thing.
Like a tattoo?
So 3 red marks. No bump, no scab, no itching, no feeling of discomfort. There was a slight shine to them, as if it was almost like a healed over burn. And this was very vivid. It didn't dissipate for over a year. It was on my arm for about a year before it faded away. It eventually faded away. And then I got home, it's Trismegistus tattooed on my arm. But weirdly enough, I got this tattoo and then got invited to Egypt. But yeah, I had these experiences. I had another experience where they came down and hovered above my house.
Can I ask you this? So these orbs,
Yeah.
there you go.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, bud.
That is.
Yeah,
It looks like you burned 3 cigarettes in your arm.
that's what some arsehole online definitely claimed, but I didn't.
Well, that's what I would say too.
Yeah.
Online.
That's
crazy.
Yeah, this. I noticed it immediately. I'm not particularly comfortable with it. I don't know what it really means. I really, I'm a bit of an idiot, Joe, because I should have gone to a dermatologist. I should have actually had someone
You
look
got
at it.
branded like cattle, son.
Well, that's
They
kind
branded
of what I think. And at the same time,
Just keep an eye on this one.
can I even be mad at them? I was like, show me, give me evidence. I want to sign. Well, fuck it, fine then.
Right.
There you go, dude.
I would say whatever that is on your arm, who knows? Maybe a dermatologist can explain it. It's just a coincidence. But the actual thing itself is far more interesting to me. And because one of the things that people always say is, if they were out there, what wouldn't we see them? Like, God, if they could come here from another dimension, or if they can come here from another planet or another solar system, don't you think they could probably hide? Like, we're pretty good at hiding. Like, don't you think we have technology right now, like the stealth bomber stuff, that diminishes the radar signal? Exactly. You can't pick them up on radar. So why would it be impossible to somehow or another manipulate your visual field, project what looks like clouds on the outside? We know that we can do stuff like that with plasma. Like they have these plasma things that can spin in the sky. And it's weird. They can make objects out of them.
I wonder if that was plasma. I actually do wonder if this was a form of self-organizing plasma, because that's definitely something that people have looked into quite extensively.
Maybe plasma has intelligence.
Yes.
There's some, yeah.
Yes, and that perhaps these are a form of individuated plasmic intelligences that can interact. And one thing that's very interesting about that, there was a brilliant paper actually. I did a video on it. It's like 11 different scientific institutes looking at the idea of self-organizing plasma and intelligent plasma, and they were using some references like, do you know the STS-75 NASA missions where the tether broke and you had all of these strange things going around the tether?
Yes.
So that's dismissed as ice particles and things like that. Have you ever seen the motion tracking version of that, where someone actually attached the flight paths of each object so you can see the flight path?
No.
That's crazy because
Can we see it?
Yeah, I'm sure if Jamie looks up
that is a weird one. It
STS-75
like
flight path,
lights are
tracking.
going towards that thing and checking it out.
Yeah, so this is this is a gigantic tether. I think it's like 2 kilometers long or something. It's absolutely insane. It broke away from the ship, and as it broke away, you had these what some people believe to be UFOs or plasmic oceanic intelligences, or if you're on the mainstream side, you'd say these are ice particles. There you go. If you go slightly further back, there you go. Just as that green one's starting up, this is the flight path. So if you just take it back to the beginning of that, and this is where they've attached the flight paths, and you will see complete 90-degree turns. You'll see absolute stops and reversals of change, and it's incredible.
I wonder if it's just a kind of life that
I truly think that's the case. I think so. I really do.
like the things they find with these volcanic vents at the bottom of the ocean, and it's like, oh, we didn't even know that something could survive down here. Or it could be a type of life that survives in the void space. And it just wouldn't be a biological thing. It would be some form of energy or life.
Apparently what all the spooks were telling Tom DeLonge when he went to the Pentagon, that there's amoebas in space the size of whales, and that these things were essentially. Yeah, I remember when he was on Fade to Black, and he was talking about that there are these amoebas in space that are like.
Well, why would they tell him? And then he goes on those shows and tells like, I feel like that's the type of guy that you tell some things that you want to get out. Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily have to be true.
No.
As a matter of fact, it's more fun if it's not true. And make him say as much kooky shit as possible, so that the stuff that he's going to say that's true looks ridiculous.
And now all of those guys who gave him that information are on the age of disclosure.
Exactly.
Yeah, we should trust them. We should trust all of these governments.
It's fun. If you're playing, it's like the world is a gigantic escape room. You're playing a bunch of weird puzzles and you're trying to figure it out, but nothing is what it seems.
I think nothing's as it seems. I think with Tom DeLonge and the UFO subject and To the Stars Academy and all the things that have happened since like 2017, New York Times, it's I have opinions on it, because I think I might be the first guest that you've had on that wasn't already quite established. So I've had to work my way up through social media, through the interactions in the community, to personal relations with people that aren't big names or anything like that. I've had to work my way up it. So I've seen and been exposed to things that perhaps people like Jerry Corbell and others who are already quite big names haven't seen, because they're too big. They don't need to be on social media looking at fucking comments or what's going on in the X space. But if you are like that, you start to notice things. And so what's interesting to me, despite what anyone wants to say about Stephen Greer, and I've got my own issues with Stephen Greer, what's interesting to me is that the only person really who was making noise prior to TTSA was Stephen Greer. He was the one that was putting out Netflix documentaries that were getting seen by millions of people all over the world. And he was saying, these are black budget illegal programs. This is a anti-congressional crime against humanity. We need to be busting down the doors. This is not exactly what they would want to hear if they were inside the national security state. There's this guy out there saying this. What do you do about that? Well, do you know how Tom DeLonge got linked up at the very beginning to all of this? No. So he's always been a UFO guy, and because of his background and money, he was able to secure connections, and he was very friendly with Greer. He was best buddies with Greer at one point. In fact, there's a video of him when he was quite young, pointing out all of the UFO witness tapes that he's got in his library. It's like, these are all, I'm holding on to these for a guy. He's got like 50 whistleblowers bringing this all out. This is before Greer kind of make the announcement, so it's obviously Greer. And Tom DeLonge is on Fade to Black in, I want to say, 2015, talking about this, where he tells the story of how a friend of his, Lockheed Martin, calls him up and says, hey, we're having a family and friends meet and greet over at Lockheed Martin. Would you want to introduce the bosses to the stage? And he said, yeah, but I want 10 minutes with the bosses afterwards. And they were like, okay. And so he went and he introduced them on stage, and then tells the story of being taken through these white noise corridors and down into this place where eventually he was chilling with the guys at Skunk Works, and these big directors are all sitting in this room. Okay, what is it you want to talk about? This is where he pitches To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science in this framework. And what's interesting is on the radio when he's talking about this, he's saying you have to approach these guys like you want to be of service. I was saying I'm being of service. I want to help. I want to help. So you've got a disruptive rogue person out there, Stephen Greer, saying all this stuff, causing commotion. What do we do about that? I have no idea. Suddenly, in walks a rock star, usually, because that's basically what he said. use me. I'm happy to do whatever it was. I am your conduit into the public. Now, no disrespect to Tom, I've met him. He's a lovely guy and he's very passionate about the subject. But I do think he was used. And what you get from there is the Tuna Stars Academy platform. Suddenly you have this official kind of green-lit disclosure, very soft disclosure. There's nothing like Stephen Greer's disclosure. And we're all being encouraged to partake and support in this very, what should we say, curated method of soft disclosure for the people. I think that they were very worried about what type of disruptive truths might come out before it was time to talk about them. And then suddenly Tom DeLonge was a very useful medium for communicating this. And when you see things like the WikiLeaks emails between him and John Podesta, where he's literally saying this is about bolstering PR for the military-industrial complex from a disenfranchised youth, and the generations of youth today don't trust the government. We want to change that. We want to change the perception of the military and the government. He's literally emailing John Podesta about this. So it's very clear that at the very least he was
This bitch is still doing things?
the messenger of whatever message they wanted to give him. And it just so happens that that message completely counteracts what Greer was talking about in terms of classified black budget programs. Have already cracked reverse engineering. We cracked anti-gravity in October 1954, this kind of stuff. It's like complete reversal of that narrative.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, it makes sense. That's what's the term? Useful idiots?
Useful idiot.
Yeah, they love doing that.
Yeah.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. I know I've had people on this podcast who are doing that with me. And I know they were coming on saying a bunch of nonsense. But you have to let them talk because,
For sure.
The truth comes out in the wash.
For sure.
And I think what's interesting about the age of disclosure is this narrative of the reality of what happened. If it did happen, there's lying to Congress, there's misappropriation of funds, you're going to need amnesty. And so this is the narrative. This narrative is we need amnesty. It's like, it's kind of a smart way to do it, right? Do it in a documentary, have all these people that are probably implicated in some way say we need amnesty. All these people that say that they know about these programs, amnesty is important because,
That's what I'm saying.
people but what they've been doing, really, if they have been doing what we assume they've been doing, we assume they've retrieved crashed UFOs and they've back-engineered them. We assume they've used that technology. We assume they're aware that there's non-human intelligences that are far beyond our technological capabilities and that we interact with them. You've committed a crime against humanity by not telling people that. Because we all operate under the assumption that we have an understanding of what our role is in this ecosystem of life. And if our role is not even remotely at the apex, if we are being visited and manipulated, and if we're actually a product of experiments, you should fucking tell us. You guys can't be hanging out at Raytheon in the fucking conference
Can you
room.
believe this shit? Like,
With your gold Rolexes on,
dude.
you motherfuckers.
Right?
Tell everybody.
But we can't handle the truth,
But
right?
they're
We can't
right.
handle it.
They are right with the amnesty thing. I think that's the pathway.
I mean,
Look, these guys are not gonna.
No.
What they stole, they stole.
Yeah.
Okay. What they did, they did. With the lying to Congress, the lies have been told. Let's fucking find out what the truth is. These guys, whatever they did, they did. Okay, you didn't stop it then. Let it go. The more important thing is let's find out if this is real. That's more important than everything.
Yeah.
For the race, for the human race,
Yeah.
the entire human race. And for science and technology, to have all this stuff locked down like that and not allow the great young minds that are coming up right now to have access to this is crazy. You're wasting one of the most valuable resources that we have with secrecy.
I think there's so many different reasons why they might want to keep this a secret in terms of breakthrough energy and propulsion systems. Like there's so many different implications to that, right?
Massively disruptive.
Massively disruptive. And could you imagine some like whacked out fucking dude with a 0-point energy device? Like,
or you imagine some guy who's running an oil company who finds out that they're about to do something like that. Like the fuck you are.
Right.
Like how about this guy at MIT that just got assassinated in his home?
Dude. The wet works in the corporate world is very real.
This is very real. This guy was one of the more disturbing theories he had was that not only is the shift of the magnetic poles that here I'll send it to you, James.
Yeah.
But his take on it was that the shift of the magnetic poles is necessary in order to maintain Well, I don't want to fuck it up.
Or like a natural Earth cycle
Yeah.
that has to happen.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to think and look it up at the same
You're
time.
good.
Here it is. I'll send it to you, Jimmy. Sorry for the dead air, folks. Okay, so it says the assassinated MIT plasma scientist warned that Earth requires periodic magnetic reversals to sustain its field.
Interesting.
No reversal equals no dynamo equals the magnetic field dissipates. The last time this happened, in the tweet it says Noah's flood.
So somewhere the man. Oh, I know both these guys.
This guy who has
Google
this,
whistleblower. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that not loading? The clip?
Physics 101 fluid description.
It seems like the clip's not. Okay, let's hear what he has to say. It's really interesting shit, man.
That the Earth's magnetic field was constant in the last billion years. So, yeah, is it right that the Earth has lost 10% of its magnetic field in the last 150 years? And how come?
So, excellent question, Alex. Thank you. So, when I say that the Earth's magnetic field has remained roughly constant, what I mean is, if you look over longish time scales, its magnitude is roughly constant. Of course, it varies, right? And it reverses sometimes, right? And those reversals of the Earth's magnetic field, so reversal meaning the North Pole becomes the South Pole and vice versa. So those happen, and there's even interesting stories you can tell about how those reversals of the Earth's magnetic field correlate with mini ice ages and things like this. Okay? But the idea is that if you average over these periodic reversals, right, or fluctuations, the amplitude of the field has remained roughly constant. Okay? And the idea is that if there was no induction, if there was no dynamo working, you and I wouldn't be talking, right? The magnetic field would have diffused very quickly, right, within 10 to 5 years. The Earth would be left without a magnetic field, and the Earth's magnetic field protects it from cosmic radiation. Right? And if you were open to that radiation, you wouldn't be here, like I said, and nor would I.
Okay, thank you very much.
Wild. And they just put bullets into that dude.
Well, it
could have been a robbery. We don't know. Maybe Massachusetts has a lot of robberies. For sure. They've got a lot of. For sure. It's one of them East Coast liberal-run cities. It's got a crime problem.
Completely fucked.
And I'm sure, as a MIT professor, he's probably lived nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible.
It's possible, but it also is possible that somebody killed him. And imagine if they killed him because he's telling us, hey, Earth's about to reverse its magnetic poles, and we might be fucked. A cataclysm might be coming.
Well, this is what I think there was a knowledge of in deep antiquity. There was a knowledge of cycles, of Earth cycles, and they were preparing for it. Why are these structures built in a way that's anti-seismic, that's resistant to incredible force?
Right.
The amount
Sacsayhuamán,
Sacsayhuamán is such a good example of that. It's really an incredible example. I mean, the level of ingenuity, and also the fact that they're finding that these walls go way deeper, right? Because of not just the excavation where they're going deep down and finding new blocks of stone, but just the walls. There's key excavations going on around the walls. They just keep going down. So it's like this place was buried, maybe with a lot of earth push up and submerged into the ground. Clearly, this place experienced some form of global upheaval. And what's really weird about a place like Peru, for example, is that prior to at the end of the last glacial maximum, around 90,000 years ago, when the Earth started to warm up again, there were certain climatologically stable corridors. And Peru was one of those areas which was actually quite climatologically stable. So at the end of the LGM, the last glacial maximum, to the Younger Dryas, it's about 6,000 plus, 6,000 and change. Now, we've taken ourselves from horse and cart to supercomputers in less than 150 years. So the idea that areas of the world that had stability for about 6,000 years couldn't create something incredible, and then the Younger Dryas comes, and it takes it all away for the most part. It's very provocative in Peru because of, again, the existence of the Inca structures that are very, quite pristine actually, and still standing, very simple, and yet they are surrounded by broken megaliths and multi-ton structures that have gone through incredible damage.
And what I was getting at, what I was saying about that area, is the way the stones are interlocked would protect it against earthquakes.
Yeah, dissipate the force through all of these different areas. It allows for the force, the kinetic force, to dissipate through the structure instead of it being focused and blowing apart one area of it. So it's clearly done for the purposes of trying to prevent massive amounts of force. Where would they get that type of a concept from?
Right.
It makes me wonder. It makes me wonder if they did have a knowledge of great cycles, like the Adam and Eve story, that whole thing that was like classified by the CIA for a minute, the Adam and Eve story.
It was classified by the
It
CIA?
was listed on their Freedom of Information Act
Oh,
library.
right. What was that again?
It was a deep research into cycles, great cycles of cataclysmic destruction on Earth by a guy called, his name was Chan Thomas, but I think that was a pseudonym or a fake, not a real name. And he actually had at the beginning of it, a series of people he had listed without whom this book would not be possible, and it was like top 5-star generals, and it's like okay, so this guy had the Chan Thomas, the Adam and Eve story. It's all about this great cyclical cataclysm that does take place every 12,000 years or something like that, and that the ancients had a knowledge of this. And I think that this is something that we will probably begin to realize, is that somewhere in deep antiquity there was a level of knowledge that is very contradictory to what we understand now. And I think places like Peru, places like Egypt and others, Malta, Göbekli Tepe, of course, it's becoming very palpable that there was something before this.
Also, when you see the spikes of the Earth's temperature, when you see those ups and downs, those glaciers and those warming periods, what is there a uniform time in between those spikes?
In terms of,
is it predictable?
I don't know.
Is it every 12,000 years gets a little funky?
I imagine it's probably
lasts
not
for about 12,000 years, comes back. Right.
But
probably
this
not.
this is one of the things that people in the conspiracy world would say they're keeping from us. They're keeping this knowledge. Yes, there are 12,000 year cycles, and we are just not being allowed to know that knowledge. But
that seems
I don't know.
Well, they have models of the past.
Exactly.
Core samples and things along those lines, but we do know that it's never static, and we do know that there have been these periods, and they do look like a strange graph. It's not a flat line it's all getting warmer. No, it's always crazy. So what is causing these dips and these rises and these weird periods that seem to be rhythmic? You know what I'm saying? It's not like there's an immense time of heating and then a small time of cooling,
right.
And then no, it's up and down and up and down.
Well, it's almost like the heartbeat of the planet, isn't it? You look at the planet as some form of conscious entity. It's certainly capable of producing conscious beings on top of it. So I wonder about that, and the mycelial network, and these kind of elements to the planet that almost seem like neurological architecture.
Well, even if you could look from afar, if you could have the concept of the Earth, the water's moving, the clouds are moving.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a live thing almost.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not moving because it's tissue, but that doesn't mean that there's not a force that's all connected and working in harmony.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I think plasmic intelligence is very interesting, because it's this idea that a self-organizing plasmic structure could in some way create consciousness inside of it, and we don't understand where consciousness comes from. We still don't. So it's very open to the idea of possibility. And I've spoken to some pretty interesting scientists like Dr. Salvatore Pais. He's the guy that was responsible for the UFO, US Navy UFO patents that got put out a few years back, underwater, undersea plasmic generators and things like this. He was a US Space Force engineer, and he is very much of the opinion that plasma itself is capable of becoming conscious, not conscious on its own. But 99% of the observable universe is made out of plasma. 99%. Okay, isn't it weird how we get taught about solids, gases, and liquids, but not plasma, the fourth state of matter? That's 99% of the universe. Why aren't we taught about that in school?
That's weird.
Weird, right? Do you ever
I've
remember
heard
being
about
taught plasma in school?
Well, when did they start learning that?
Well, I mean, I don't know, but it's certainly before my time in school. I didn't get taught it. You know what I mean?
So why would they? Are you saying that they perhaps are hiding this?
I think that there's things within plasma physics that are so novel and exotic, like these self-organizing EVOs, exotic vacuum objects, and the science that they're studying. And have you ever heard of the Sapphire Project?
No.
It's kind of gone quiet now. Hal Puthoff got involved with it for a minute, where they're claiming to bottle the stars, and they're creating these plasmic, self-organizing plasmas inside these chambers that they were claiming could transform metals from one metal into gold, or like transmutation of elements and complete revolution of propulsion and energy. Then it just fizzles out.
I always wondered about that.
There's
With
something to
alchemy.
plasma.
Why were people really trying to make gold? That seems so crazy that you think you could make something like that. And I always wonder, did maybe somebody used to make it and they have like this story of how people used to make gold? Like if there was, like imagine the caps of the Great Pyramids are in gold, right? And what if they made that gold? Right. Like what if they had gotten to, it's not impossible to assume, like if the earth creates gold, it's not impossible to think that we could take the elements of the earth and create gold as well. There's got to be a way to do it. Is there a way to create gold currently?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question.
Let's put that into our sponsor sometimes. How do you make gold?
Well, let me show you what I asked. The combination of gold automatically brought up ancient Egypt metallurgy. Blending 4 classical elements.
Whoa.
There is some sort of
Earth,
process.
air, fire, and water, and you make gold?
Spread to Greco and Roman texts via the Islamic world in the 8th century. I mean,
What'd you say?
Gold plating is maybe what they're getting at. I don't know if that's...
Unless they were trying to create.
Alchemy.
What'd you say, Mr. Aquarius?
Also kind of personal alchemy, soul. And
Are you
it's not
sleeping?
always necessarily meant as a physical thing, turning base metals into gold. It's more about turning you, base human, into a golden person. Like a lot of the times in alchemy, it's more about the personal development of your spirit, your soul.
Maybe, but they're clearly talking about metallurgy.
Oh yeah, I mean like right here.
So, but I mean, if gold was a valuable, if it was about valuable part of technology, which it is, and it had conducting aspects to it, it's very conducive, or it's good at conducting.
Conductive, yeah.
And you can make it. Modern methods. Particle accelerators like CERN's Large Hadron Collider achieve this by slamming lead nuclei together in near-miss collisions, generating intense electromagnetic fields that eject 3 protons from the lead, 82 protons to form gold, 79 protons.
Wow.
The ALICE experiment detected up to 89,000 gold nuclei per second during lead runs, totaling, or lead runs, I'm not sure which one, totaling 29 picograms over years, trillions of times less than needed for visible amounts. Whoa, that's crazy. Trillions of times less than needed for visual amounts. In early 1980, Glenn Seaberg transmuted bismuth into gold isotope using carbon and neon beams at Lawrence Berkeley Lab.
So maybe they use the pyramids for lightning strikes to create gold, iron ore streams, and next thing you know, you get gold. That's why it's so much gold.
I mean, who knows? Who knows what they figured out?
We should be able to ask these questions and not be.
Well, it's certainly fascinating. It's certainly fascinating that people have been obsessed with the possibility of making gold. Obviously, it's because gold is rare and very valuable. But here's the question: why is gold very valuable? You can't make a weapon out of it. Like, how did it rise to prominence?
Isn't there like some like translations that are from like the whole Sumerian Babylonian text where it's kind of like we were made to mine gold?
That's all Zechariah Sitchin.
It's like Zechariah Sitchin, right?
Yeah, Zechariah Sitchin though is very controversial. I'm too stupid to know who's right, but I do know that when I talk about Zechariah, I always talk about the website sitchiniswrong.com.
Yeah.
So there's a website where it seems like he was the only one that was buying into that. And when I talk to Wes Huff, he doesn't even think that Zechariah Sitchin can actually read Sumerian.
Just fucking guessing.
Well, it might be a little, I don't want to disparage the great man because he's not with us anymore, but he might not have been totally honest, or he might have been convinced. Some people just become true believers.
Yeah, no, for sure.
What he's saying essentially is that he tried to learn Sumerian, and Wes knows many different ancient languages. Like, he's a brilliant guy. He's like, I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't do it. Now, obviously, there have been translations of Sumerian. There are people that can do it. It's incredibly difficult. And it's also apparently not related to any other languages. And it's so ancient, it's weird. And then the cuneiform and all that stuff. It's good luck.
Right.
Good luck figuring out what they were saying.
I know, I always wondered how actually kind of come to those positions on it.
It is incredibly complex,
Yeah.
and the only people that really know are the people that are that deep into it that they can read it as well.
Mhm.
And they don't seem to agree with him. But at the end of the day, like whatever was going on over in that part of the world, they had a lot of discussions of things that came from the sky.
Yeah.
They had a detailed map of the solar system, which is very weird. A 5,000 plus year old detailed map of the solar system with all the planets, Jupiter, Mars, Earth. It's like, what's that?
Yeah.
What's
How
that?
are you achieving this?
What are these giant people with monkeys on their laps?
And
What's,
like,
what's
Gilgamesh holding a lion like it's a little cat.
Yeah.
And loads of statues. And,
Why do all these dudes have wings?
very, very typically dismissed as kind of like, oh, it was just an intellectual giant, or a giant of power and regality. And it's like, okay, but there's a lot of them. There's a lot of references all across the world. Interesting. And
Mr. Aquarius, what are you saying?
This is the reality of fossils.
yeah,
This is the reality of fossils. There is a tiny, tiny amount of all the things that die that leave a fossil.
right.
Most things don't leave a fossil when they die. They get absorbed by the earth, eaten by scavengers, bacteria, you rot away, the sun bleaches your bones, and it's over. So within a few hundred years, there's nothing left. Occasionally, you get lucky, and someone or a dinosaur falls into a bog, and you get evidence. But if you don't get that evidence, it doesn't mean it didn't exist. And
Exactly.
the giant one is a weird one.
It is a weird one.
It's a weird one because there's so many depictions in ancient literature of giants, of giant beings, and you got to wonder, okay, are we talking about like men from Iceland?
Right.
Are we talking about giants that are just enormous human beings, like those big chads? What those dudes that do those strong man competitions? They all like the mountain.
Yeah, man.
Those guys all live in Iceland. They're all from Iceland. What the fuck is that about?
Exactly. Well, what is that about?
Vikings, right? They were the Vikings, and that's what's left. But is it that? Are we talking about that, or are we talking about another race of human that's even larger? And if they found it, do they tell us? Like they tell us about certain. They tell us about Denisovans, similar to us. They tell us about Homo juliens, similar to us, just a little bit bigger. They tell us about the 4-foot skull. Do they tell us?
There's like this snippets, isn't there, from the black and white days, 1920s, where the Smithsonian kind of
Yes!
covered things up. And like, this is very
It's giant bones. Right? Bones from a giant human. And there's all these Native American stories about giant right-handed humans
in the burial mounds.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
But here's the thing: is like this is the real question. Would if archaeologists stumbled upon a 4-foot head and they were under the guidance of the university, would they shut it down?
That's such a good
Would
question.
they release it? I am fascinated by the fact that I have to ask that question. Because I would assume that if archaeologists found it, of course they would release it. Like, we have found evidence of a giant, like a giant human being, and this might be the first ones you find. There might have been a whole race of them that existed 20,000 years ago.
Yeah,
Would they tell us?
I don't know, Joe.
That's what's weird is we don't know if they would
I
tell
don't know
us.
if they would tell us.
They might not. The government might step in and say you are not allowed.
Well, that's the thing, is it might supersede just academic circles and archaeology. It might get a little bit more serious. Why? The implications of our ancient history and, what exactly was taking place. I'm fascinated by some areas that seem to have a level of kind of like theologic reference to them. So, the Book of Enoch and the Watchers, they descend down on Mount Hermon in Baalbek, right? So that's Baalbek, which is Baalbek, the lord of the Bekaa Valley, and Baal, the storm god, like the one that everyone talks about, the sacrifices to Baal.
It's also the place that has these insane trillion stones.
I was just about to mention them. Yeah, that's it. The trilithons. The trilithon stones. 800 to 1,000 tons. 800 to 1,000 tons a piece.
And they're not even laying on the ground.
No, they've been lifted up. They've been lifted up quite significantly. And this is the thing, man. It's like, somewhere like this, so you've got this weird story about this is basically 30 miles away from there is Mount Hermon, where the Watchers apparently came down from the sky.
Fuck?
And then you've got these impossible blocks in this, and the quarry there as well. The quarry there, you have like the stone of the pregnant woman, which is like 1,250 tons. And there's another one there that's like 1,500 tons. Like these were never fully excavated, but they're there getting ready and they've just been documented in situ. But then, 300 meters up the road or less is the Temple of Jupiter, which again, mainstream academics will attribute to 1st century Romans. But the first century Romans had like wooden pulleys and like little wooden cranes. Like this is insane. This is an 800 to 1,000 ton block, 3 of them, that were lifted up. I think it's like at least like 20 meters or something, you know.
Jamie, can you please show us a photo of it? I always love looking at these.
Especially if you can
photos.
find one with a human being standing in it, like Corsetti, if he's like,
Yeah,
into
this is a
some
good one,
great ones.
Corsetti.
Like, it's phenomenal how big these are.
It's so crazy.
It freaks me out.
It's so crazy to think that what we believe, they use some sort of stone tools
It's
or
fucking
copper
stupid,
tools
man. Like,
and pulleys
it's
to get this in
it's
place,
stupid.
and you got it out of the quarry how?
Well, and then
Yeah.
oh, so that's
no,
that's
that's
a brilliant
different.
place. So that's Ollantaytambo in Peru, fantastic
Yeah.
area, which I'll be showing in my next episode of Ancient Technology.
It's the trillium stone.
Trilithon.
Trilithon. I keep saying it
Sorry.
wrong. Trilithon. The trilithon
Trilithon
stones.
stones, yeah, Baalbek.
And one of the interesting things that Corsetti was saying is like that's not even a place where they take a lot of tourists to.
No,
Okay, so there it is. So you see the person, and then look above how big those stones are.
This is not sensible to attribute to first century Rome.
No, go back to just the Lebanon ones. That's it.
Yeah,
They are so big.
that one, and then there's a good black and white one. You see with the yellow. Yeah, there you go.
There
There's
you
two
go.
little dudes sitting on top of them.
Crazy.
Absolutely phenomenal. And then the smaller blocks on top. That is first century Romans. Absolutely, without a doubt. There is obvious evidence that the Temple of
built it on top of
Jupiter. Yeah, they
something
built it on top of an ancient foundation, which they were not capable of doing.
Probably a landing pad.
So many people say that. You know, whenever I post like any, it's like there's a landing pad
Make
for the spaceships.
landing pad for our
Dude.
ships.
But what's crazy about that as well, just a real quick aside, well, not even an aside, is an addition to that, is that, okay, so the mainstream attributes this to first century Romans, but then the Romans liked to brag about all the things they did, and third century Romans bragged about the Lateran obelisk that's now sitting in Rome. And the Lateran obelisk is about 350 to 400 tons. That's the heaviest recorded lift in Roman history. These are 800 to 1,000 tons. They never even mentioned them. So it's weird that we attribute it to Romans, but it's because within our model for history, we can't not if we're going to listen to academics, right? So you have to then invoke fringe theories.
I had Rep Luna on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And she
Yeah,
was
yeah.
the one who really got me to read the Book of Enoch.
Dude, she's digging in.
Oh yeah,
She's digging in. Yeah.
She's all in on the UFOs.
I know she is.
I know they tell her.
Yeah.
I mean, is she useful to them? You know, the whole thing is weird.
Maybe.
Maybe.
It's hard to know.
But when I started reading it, now, if that was included in the Bible, if they had, because it really was rabbis that
Yeah.
decided that it didn't jive with the Torah, right?
Right.
And so they said, no, this one's
Can't
too
have
crazy.
this, yeah.
If that was in the Bible, and that's what we were taught,
Things be different.
can you imagine the Sunday church, the watchers came down?
Right,
Maybe.
yeah.
But meanwhile, that is in
Yeah.
the same area of Qumran, written down as the Book of Isaiah.
Mhm.
So all these things that are included in the Bible, that's there. It's all the same word. Why are we ignoring some of it? Like, that's really crazy. Why ignoring the stuff that seems the most kooky?
I think that there's probably maybe disagreements because I mean, there's so much change for the biblical canon from all of these different councils, like the Council of Nicaea, all these different censorings and changing of the Bible. It's probably personal issue. It could be something as simple as just someone who personally did not believe that. It's like, that's bullshit. Remove that. That's not real. There's no way there were giants. But I love how at the beginning of the Bible it's like there were giants in those times and the times before.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All over.
Moving on, never mention it again, in any sort of real context, other than David and Goliath in a few situations. But no, I really am starting to wonder if there was a giant race that was on
I
this
think there
planet,
was.
dude. I really do.
The Native American depictions alone.
Yeah,
There's too many stories of the enormous men that they had to kill.
yeah. And their history, their oral tradition goes so far back.
Yeah, I mean, imagine we're talking 10,000.
Yeah.
Now that we know that human beings lived in North America 22,000 plus years ago, right? So the fossilized footprints that they found in New Mexico. So that's 22,000 years. So imagine 22,000 years ago, these things were a real thing. How many of them have you found?
Mm-hmm.
You haven't found any bones of humans from 22,000 years ago in North America, have you? No, right? So why?
Exactly.
Does the Smithsonian have them, these motherfuckers? If they really do have a giant down there, can you
I
imagine?
think they probably do, Joe.
Can you imagine if there's a tomb that you have to go into? It's like a vault. That cranks open the vault.
It's like the history version of Area 51.
You see a fucking head the size of this table, and you're like, what?
That's what we're dealing with. That's what we're dealing with. Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta kill them off.
Maybe.
Which totally makes sense. Why would you let that motherfucker live?
Right.
You got a 10-foot tall, 12-foot tall.
That's a problem.
Yeah, 2,000-pound human.
Yeah.
Eats people.
That is a problem. I wonder, I always get this because, like, the Watchers themselves are never described as giant beings.
Right.
I wonder where the giant came into the equation.
Well, isn't it us compared to them?
Maybe.
Let's look
like,
at this.
maybe there were slight aliens, like alien greys or
Sure.
something, and
Well, look at the description of the Nephilim. How they destroyed everything.
Yeah.
Like, they created this thing that consumed everything, destroyed everything, including mankind. Like, what does that sound like?
It sounds like us.
That's like us.
It sounds like us.
Right. And also, like, you're saying mankind. Like, mankind, what are you saying? Are you saying aliens? Like, so, like, who wrote this?
Yeah.
Like, what is
Yeah,
mankind?
for
Like,
sure.
what does that term mean? I bet you're not saying man.
Mhm.
I bet you're probably using an ancient language to describe whatever the dominant force was at the time that's writing all this down. What are we talking about?
Yeah.
What is these Watchers? They mated with humans? So what are they? And they created something that destroyed everything? What? So, okay. What is that? What are you talking about? And doesn't that sound exactly like humans? Like, what do? We fucking destroy everything.
Yeah.
We destroy everything. We light things on fire. We suck all the fish out of the ocean. We throw our garbage in it. We are so destructive.
Yeah.
We're so consuming. We consume. We're one of the only animals that dies because we eat too much.
Yeah. Right.
Right? We're one of the only animals.
Yeah. Well, we're one of the only. We are the only example on this planet of the level of intelligence that we have. I mean, it's just phenomenal.
Right.
I mean, really quite phenomenal when you consider all of the various avenues of evolution that have been given the opportunity.
We have a massive leap. Yeah.
Phenomenally, but a leap that has to, in some way, have been intervened.
Yes.
In my opinion, I mean, it's such a quantum leap in our ability of cognition and the brain size. I mean, I do find the stoned ape theory very interesting, and the concept of using psychedelics, and I think there's a role to play in that for sure. But I just think that when you have such a novel trajectory change from every other creature, every other animal on this planet, that tells me that there's something fundamentally accelerated in humans, and whether that can just be put down to shamanic use of psychedelics, I don't know. I think that when you invoke again all of these various theologic stories, it becomes clear that something was interfacing with us, and perhaps at one point we were interfacing with them, and there was a communication and a relation that has since long degraded after cataclysmic outreaches, and
I think the evolution that came out of psychedelics and primitive man was the escape from the barbaric nature of our roots.
Right.
I don't think it's necessarily the development of the human brain.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's probably
Communal
a way
values
to,
and
well, also a way
societal.
to use the human brain with its primate background, but soften the ego. Right.
Yeah.
And endorse a feeling of community. And promote a feeling of community and love and the connectiveness that you get from psychedelics. It will allow you to traverse the timelines between incredibly barbaric hunter-gatherers with stone-tipped tools to agrarian societies where people are all living together and cooperating, and it makes sense. But what doesn't make sense is the giant leap to being a human in the first place.
No.
It's kooky.
It is.
And it's in the Bible. At least it's in the book of Enoch.
It's
that's
there.
The crazy part about it is that they literally describe what we're, and not just us, like many people have theorized. Like, have we been a product? Are we a product of genetic manipulation? Are we a product of accelerated evolution?
Well, again, my own experiences, I just feel like there is quite obviously a vast intelligence spectrum out there, in my opinion, and I think it goes beyond our own perception of space and time, and I think that there are likely things that can come in from realms that we just don't really believe are real, like the astral, and even the realm of the imagination is an interesting thing. What is this place inside of our heads that we can instantaneously create anything we want, and all things, including everything on this table, once came from inside someone's mind? Like, we are excretors of ideas into reality. We kind of render reality into something that nothing else does. And I think that there is a spark within us that speaks to what people would call a divine spark, for sure. And maybe that is a divine spark. Maybe it's a highly intelligent race that intervened and gave us that spark. but we are entirely different, and I do think that as we begin to get deeper and deeper into kind of like the physics of our reality and our fundamental connection to it, we start realizing that our physiology, our body is like an antenna, it's like a technology, it's an instrument for picking up on signals and perhaps even consciousness itself. I don't know if you're familiar with microtubules and the orchestrated objective reduction theory by Stuart Hameroff and Sir Roger Penrose.
How many times do you bring that up to people and they go, "Oh yeah, I know what you're
Oh, I
talking
know
about."
exactly what you're talking about. Well, I hang out with some weird fucking people, but I just thought it might have come. I definitely have heard Duncan Trussell say to you, "Microtubules, man,
Yes.
microtubules." No, so I did an interview with an anesthesiologist called Stuart Hameroff, and him and Sir Roger Penrose developed a model called the Orchestrated Objective Reduction Theory, or OR, looking at microtubules, which are these tiny helical structures inside our neurons. And I forget the exact metric, but it's something ridiculous, like 10,000 microtubules per neuron. So it's just, this incredible architecture of these tiny little helical structures that apparently are so small that they interact with quantum vibrations in fields. That's how fine and tiny they are. And the reason I bring this up is because I think that we're getting deeper now with things like the OR theory into looking at the structures within humanity that actually seem to be receiving nodes or receptive nodes for energy that could then be translated into consciousness. The whole idea of, are we generating consciousness from our brain, or are we receiving consciousness and we're just a conduit for it?
Yes.
And I think the evidence is getting a little bit more clearer that we're a conduit. And I just wonder if that's evolution naturally, or if that's interaction from these others that have come and meddled with our genealogy.
It's a good question that we'll have to ponder when I come back from peeing.
You do that.
We'll pause.
No worries.
All right, where were we?
Well, Jamie brought something up, which is a really interesting video that I took when I was out in Saqqara in Egypt, again with Jeffrey Drum, who was taking me through. And this is an awesome place. So just for context, before we play it, take it back to the beginning. This is inside the Pyramid of Unas in Saqqara, and this is deep down inside of it, inside what they call the burial chamber. Now you see all of these, amazing Arabic artwork that's been quite, relatively crudely scratched in. Now you see that glow? That's actually calcite crystal, and that's limestone. Now the entire back of this chamber, like this wall, the back wall, the other wall, and the ceiling and the floor, is made out of a slab of calcite crystal. But what's really interesting about this is that when you take a flashlight and you put it in a certain angle on this wall, something very interesting appears. Boom. An otherwise invisible etching of an individual. You can see the navel, the belly button, and the arms, and this is completely invisible until you get that flashlight. Now these have been actually smoothed. There we go. Promo for my episode, but these have actually been smoothed into the calcite crystal itself, and then obviously these Aramaic writings and pictographs have been scratched on afterwards. So clearly, this is the original artwork of this chamber, but it's not perceptible without a very specific angle of light that creates the shadows. And these are on the other side of the wall as well. I think in this clip maybe he doesn't show it, but very, very strange. Now this entire pyramid is acoustically profound. I mean, the acoustics inside of this are unbelievable. The amount of echo that you get. And the entire Saqqara site, we went around it, and I mean, my God, it's a weird site, man. You've got, again, just incredibly huge slabs of rose quartz granite, and there's one area that's like on the other side of the pyramid, not even near the entrance, which is just this huge portcullis made of granite with interlocking pieces where clearly another piece of stone was slid between them. But this is nowhere even connected to the pyramid infrastructure, and they don't say anything about it. Strewn across this entire place, you've got huge blocks of granite with drill holes in them. You can see the striation marks going all the way through them. And his opinion, Jeffrey's, and I think there's merit to it, because in Cairo Museum, there's a little cabinet of laboratory equipment, like jugs and apothecary bottles that were recovered from Saqqara, including a little plate. There's like a little plaque. This wasn't included. This is put into the actual exhibition, but it's tucked into the corner of Cairo Museum. You have to find it. You have to really look for it. There's a little plaque saying that the area of Saqqara was a laboratory. And again, like this completely contradicts all of the things that they say about ancient Egypt, but it's in the Cairo Museum. It's literally written as the ancient laboratory of Saqqara. And so, what's going on there? Why is there a contradiction like that that's being acknowledged? And it's truly just an incredible place with these shadow figures and the acoustic resonance of the site, the rose granite.
So why do you think that it was originally these carvings were in the wall and then they wrote on it afterwards?
Well, I think it's just another case of a later civilization coming across an incredibly amazing place and carving on it. Maybe they didn't even see these figures because you have to have a very specific type of light to actually be able to see them. You have to get it at that angle. It's possible.
You can't detect by looking at it that there's some variation.
I mean, you can see when you actually know what you're looking
Like a little
for,
bit of wiggle.
but barely anything. It's like really hard to perceive. So maybe they didn't even know that these things were down there when they went. There's another part of this when you're going through the chambers where it's rose granite, and then plaster, where you've got hieroglyphics put on the top, and you can actually see the plasters kind of bleeding off into the rose granite. So it feels like they found it, they slapped some hieroglyphs on it, they, put their own veneration around it, but it was not an original structure of the Egyptians. Once again, a place that they found and settled around. But it's just weird that in the Cairo Museum you have like this tiny little shelf full of beakers and measuring jug type things, and it says that the lab complex of Saqqara. It just doesn't make any sense in comparison to what they're trying to tell us is the reality of this place. So that's weird.
It's all weird.
It's all weird.
Yeah, that's why the bottleneck of talking about this stuff is so infuriating.
This is the same place, by the way, we have the Serapeum, the 80-ton boxes that are precision marble top, the ones that Christopher Dunn went down into and was like, these have been machined.
Yeah, let's pull up a photo of those, please. They're strange.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what do you think they were doing with those things? Like, what was the purpose?
Well, you know what's interesting is
what was the drill?
They were so these things are absolutely incredible. And there's a few questions with this. One, if you go onto that image, zoom out, just go to that image on the right where you've got the entrance, just the entrance into this one there. So this is the entrance into the Serapeum, or the Serapeum, however you want to pronounce it. It's a subterranean labyrinth, and these corridors are extremely small. There's actually a half-finished one sitting in the middle of a corridor, and you can kind of really get a scope for the size. But these are 70 to 80 ton granite sarcophagi. They attribute it to the Apis bulls. They say that there was a cult around this region that venerated the Apis bulls, and that these were burial chambers for the Apis bulls. But what's funny about that is the only thing they have to evidence this is no bones of bulls or anything like that. What they have is a single hieroglyph on one of these boxes of a bull. That's it. They have a hieroglyph with a bull on it, and that's why they attribute it to the Apis bulls, regardless of the fact that these are precision carved 70 to 80 ton granite marble top smoothed boxes with even more precision inside. They're even more precise on the inside, which is strange. You wouldn't necessarily need them to be that precise if they're just funerary boxes, but the precision is actually more impressive internally than it is externally. And
how long would it take to make one of those?
My
Here's
God,
the question: make it, move it, put it in place.
Make it, move it,
that
put it in
bull's
place.
long dead. Let it go.
Let it go,
The
dude.
bull
Like,
will be
it's
dead
not
for
that
years by the
important.
time you finish that thing. That's
These
crazy.
things are nuts, man. Absolutely nuts. And
There's
this is one of the big things that Christopher Dunn saw and was just like, nah. There's just no way.
Look at the people standing next to those
Yeah, man.
stones.
I've been inside one of these.
Someone moved it there and then put that other one on top of it.
Unbelievable.
When? Who? How?
Yeah, and again,
To say that's not a mystery is nuts.
It is nuts. And also, if you go on that image where they're shining a light and someone's leaning on it, on like the right-hand side, yeah, that one there. So many of these, the boxes themselves are so precise, but the actual writing is extremely crude. It's been scratched on. It's basically just been scratched on. And a lot of them, it kind of feels like, a lot of these pharaohs did, they just went and slapped a cartouche on it. I own this. This is mine.
Right.
And so, the exterior work contradicts the advancement of the actual box itself. It doesn't make sense. There's only one in here that's actually got 3D actual carved-in artwork, and that one actually does make sense. But these ones are all chicken scratch. It's just been scratched on,
Of course. So, which is what people do.
which is what people do.
There's, I mean, a lot of history of human beings doing that to ancient things.
Yeah, if you've got that third image, actually, that's an interesting image because you've got these such low quality. That's a shame. But you can actually see these dimples where they've smoothed out the stone. And what's weird about this is that, so if these were funerary boxes, you would expect the external to be the most impressive because that's what people are going to see, right? But instead, you actually have a lot of malformation on the boxes. And one of the theories about this, and this is something that, there we go, is a good example of this. One of the theories about this, and one that Jeffrey Drum brought up for me, is that whatever was going on inside of these cases, the exterior had to have absolutely zero critical imperfections. So any cracks, anything that was problematic would have been dissolved out, smoothed away. And you have this weird kind of dimpling on a lot of these, and somewhere you can actually see a crack where the crack's been removed and it's been kind of smoothed out. And then inside, it's like 90-degree, just perfect. And so it just kind of contradicts the idea of it being for the, a funerary purpose. You'd expect the outside to be absolutely perfect and beautiful, but it's not. It's all kind of mal-shaped and as if they were trying to remove any sort of cracks, anything that could cause a structural problem. And then inside they're perfect. So it does make me wonder about the real purpose behind
Why
these.
are you assuming that it would be cracks? Why wouldn't it just be that they didn't have a need to finish the top of it?
Because
Some
some of them,
finished carpentry.
well, some of them are finished quite profoundly, and then you have others that have got these big dimples in them where it just looks like they were trying to remove anything that might have been a critical damage to the structure. Obviously, this is guesswork.
Right, but the purpose of that would be to keep it from cracking.
To keep it from cracking all the way through. I just find it very interesting that the inside is more impressive than the outside for something that's meant to be, viewed as a funerary box.
Right. An enormous funerary box.
An enormous funerary box.
Does anybody have a wacky far out theory of what they were actually for?
I mean, there's always some. I mean, one of them I find interesting is the idea that they could be like some form of like a sound bath, like an isolatory chamber where they would go into and have like some form of experiences.
You gotta count on someone to move that fucking thing. There's such a strong evidential trail of acoustic sciences in the ancient past, especially archaeoacoustics in terms of the actual architecture itself, like the pyramids. They're designed to resonate like one of the most interesting places that I've been to in terms of looking at the acoustics of places, as well as Malta, the island of Malta. And the island of Malta is very interesting because when the Bronze Age settlers from Sicily and other areas of Italy came over to Malta for the first time, they discovered an island that was absolutely littered with megalithic sites. And Malta has got the highest concentration of megalithic sites in the world. But there were no people. They're all gone. No one knows who they were. It was just a land full of these incredible megalithic temples. And one in particular, called the Hypogeum of Halseflieni. Now, the Hypogeum is fascinating, dude. It's a subterranean huge temple that was discovered by road workers, and they were literally just chipping away at the road, and then it collapsed in, and they find this huge, what they call a necropolis, because they found hundreds of skeletons down there. This thing is incredible. This is all carved out of the limestone, and it is a overlapping geometric series of chambers that is so obviously acoustically tuned that if you actually if you wanted to search Hypogeum acoustics, it will come up with studies where they've noticed that this is absolutely a deliberately acoustically tuned complex. Go on the actual website, not images. And that's an interesting one. Whether or not it's entirely accurate, someone's comparing the Hypogeum to the human ear, specifically because of the fact that this place absolutely is acoustically tuned to resonate between 110 and 115 hertz, which is the bandwidth to activate certain brain states like alpha and theta brain, where you can get into more meditative states of consciousness. And only 20% of this site is accessible to the public, 70% of it's locked off. And they treat it like a skiff. They take your phone, they take your camera, you can't bring any audio recording devices into it, nothing. Very curated tour for 30 minutes and then out. Why is 70% of it locked off?
That's a great question. They say it's for preservation of the site because it's such a delicate Neolithic. It's prehistoric. They believe it's prehistoric. And again, this speaks to what was going on in prehistory because this is a acoustically profound series of chambers that have been carved out of the limestone bedrock by people that we attribute bone antler tools to. They were chipping away at it with bone antler tools, and they made something as profound.
So when you say prehistoric,
well, they dated to I think about 5,000 years ago. Mainstream.
What?
Mainstream. Yeah.
Carved
It's
carved out of the bedrock.
out of the bedrock. It's a huge thing. And what's even weirder about it, is that they found all these elongated skulls at the bottom of it. And I've seen one personally. I went to the Museum of Valletta in Malta and saw one of these elongated skulls. What's very interesting about these skulls is that they actually lack the sagittal suture that we have going down the back of the head. So, we have this sagittal suture which pushes the growth plates together as you come from the birth canal. Not that one. The third one, the fourth one, that one, and then there's other images which are actually the one below it where you've got skulls recovered from the hypogeum. Yeah, so this is an elongated skull that's only got a horizontal suture, no vertical suture, which is what all humans have, a vertical sagittal suture. Now, apparently, hundreds of elongated skulls were discovered in the hypogeum, but only a couple of them are on display in Valletta. And I've got a couple of friends who are in, have you heard of the Knights of Malta? No. It's a kind of a secret order, a bit like Freemasonry. It's spawned from the Vatican. The Vatican basically threw these people into Malta and said, fuck off and go do your weird stuff over there. But now it's a very connected, kind of like with the Vatican order, the Knights of Malta. Very powerful group. Very much in the geopolitical world stage. And a friend of mine who's within that was like, yeah, they bring out this book once a year in the Valletta Museum, and it's detailing the skulls of the hypogeum, and apparently tells a story of how the locals would throw bodies down there because there are beings down there that they wanted to prevent from coming up to the surface. And this is the strange thing, is the hypogeum is full of normal human bodies, hundreds, not buried with respect, but just piled down there. And then also elongated skulls. And the story is, according to this very ancient book that they bring out and put out once a year, you have to be lucky to catch it. It apparently describes that they were using this as a place to discard bodies to prevent these creatures from coming up to the surface.
So they were feeding them. So when people would die, they would just throw them down that hole. Or when people are bad people,
maybe throw them down that hole.
So these elongated skull things were eating people.
Well, that's the connections we might make from that kind of connotation from these books, but that's certainly something that is rolled out in the Valletta Museum once a year if you get to go there and see it. Is
that like an ancient version of Scientology? Somebody make all this up?
Dude, I don't know, but in terms
very
of
strange that there's
the hypogeum itself
is human skeletons down there.
Oh yeah, they did find a profound amount of them, which is why the mainstream labels it as a necropolis. But there's no burial respect being done. It was just piles of bodies, big piles of bodies too. And again, it's just so profound. It's called the Oracle Room. Yes, the Oracle Room. Yeah, this is where the sound concentrates.
The description I have found here, these two paragraphs, I guess it's going to be all along.
During testing, a deep male voice tuned to these frequencies stimulated a resonance phenomenon throughout the hypogeum, creating bone-chilling effects. It was reported that the sounds echoed for up to 8 seconds. Archaeologist Fernando Coimbra said that he felt the sound crossing his body at high speed, leaving a sensation of relaxation. When it was repeated, the sensation returned, and he also had the illusion that the sound was reflected from his body to the ancient red ochre paintings on the walls. One can only imagine the experience in antiquity, standing in what must have been somewhat odorous, dark, and listening to ritual chant while low light flickered over the bones of one's departed loved ones. Holy shit.
Yeah, dude.
might have felt like what drugs do to us.
So
So they made a drug house.
Because on the state, under right circumstances, ancient populations were able to obtain different states of consciousness without the use of drugs or chemical substances.
Or maybe in
this
coordination.
This is the Monroe Institute of Applied Sciences and binaural beats, way before we were around. This is the original psychoacoustic architecture. The idea that ancient architecture is designed in a way to propagate acoustics that affect the human brain.
Now imagine, this is 5,000 years ago, and where did you learn that from?
Right.
How did you do that? Did you fail?
Right.
Did you learn? What's the science?
And another interesting
How do you know?
element is there are a lot of temple sites in Malta that look weirdly similar to Newgrange in Ireland, and Newgrange is another psychoacoustic temple, if you want to call it a temple. It's a huge mound if you look it up, but within it they've done, again, acoustic studies, and it propagates infrasound, sound below the threshold of human hearing, and that's the stuff that reverberates through your chest cavity, through your bone structure. That's what that guy is describing. It's infrasonic sound. You know when you're like,
This is it?
yeah. And there's a...
How old is that?
Oh, it's again Neolithic. I don't know the exact date, but it's Neolithic. And these spiral patterns are in the Hypogeum. Those spiral patterns are in the Hypogeum, in Red Ochre. This is Ireland. The same structure. That's very famous Irish. This, by the way, is incredible because it's completely singular. There's no break in the line. That's a very hard piece of geometry to actually create at the time as well. It's extremely complex because all of this feeds into itself. There's no break in that line. It's a very complex geometry. But that same type of geometry is also found in the Hypogeum, and it's found in Red Ochre on the painting, these swirling kind of motifs. So it's very interesting. You have these weird correlations between places that were separated by entire oceans in Neolithic time.
Do you think that represents sound waves?
Yes. Yeah, I think it's about the flow of acoustics, the flow of movement and sound, and that was perhaps their interpretation, or perhaps they had a visual hallucination that gave them the idea of it being this kind of like swirling pattern. But yeah, I find this. Yeah, this is Ireland, and there's just some striking similarities between places like this and places in Malta. So again, it just leads into the idea that there was perhaps a globally maritime connected civilization that was using these psychoacoustic attributions in science to produce novel effects of consciousness, inducing brain hemisphere synchronization, just like they're trying to do in my ass with the CIA.
And here's the real question: how did they learn
how to do that?
How long did it take before you figured out how to carve that out?
Yeah, exactly. These are questions that.
There he is. Yo, dog. Is gold still better than silver? Yo, dog. Can you hear me? Yo. Just one moment. Yo, Doug, is gold still better than silver? I'm in agreement with you, and in the future, I think silver will be worth more than gold because it has a higher melting point and is more desirable in computing. Perhaps it will be. Perhaps it's more abundant. There you go, baby. So what's good, son? Please enlighten me on Japanese garbage. Yeah, I know. I know about it. I was the brains behind the operation. Yeah, I was 9. I was 9, and I was like, "How can we really fuck shit up today?" And I was like, "Dog, how about the fucking Japanese tunnels? Their fucking subway system. Let's fuck it up today." And then everybody was like, "Oh, that's a tight idea, Rabbi," because they were calling me Rabbi back then. And we fucked it up. How'd you like it? Pretty good, huh? All right, cool, baby. No, no, that should. All right, so word dog. All right, so talk to me. How? What does that have to do with the Japanese? Yeah. Oh, that's tight. All right. Speaking of garbage, are you ready to lose? All right. Well, maybe one of these days. All right. So here's my question for you, and it's a really important question. Maybe one of the most important questions of all time. Did you know that Zoot is not performing comedy for the next 3 weeks or so? There's some other kind of festival that they're doing, but that he is in which he is not, but that he is not but in which he is not participating, and um, I think it's some BS because I think he's maybe one of the best comedians in all of South Australia. I mean, I think it's obvious. I think if you don't, oh, for sure, Doc. For sure. Right. Um, maybe I don't know. Hey, don't put down the beat poet. Don't put down the beat poet. All right. So, this is how I this is how I genuinely feel, like in the deepest of my heart, that the people at Raw Comedy, dude, I'm just giving you this is. I would say this to your face as well, but they were sick of Zoot performing so often in South Australia, and they figured, well, if we make him a finalist, maybe he'll go on the road and we don't have to see him as much. Bazinga. Okay, so what's new with you? Oh, dog, I'm a king of. Are you gonna watch Kill Tony tonight? So is your opinion on comedy. I still no one. What are you talking? William. Okay. No, you fucking hate that show. So, do you think that you have a good opinion on Kill Tony, or do you think it's garbage like the rest of your opinions? Okay, well, what is your cup of tea? Yeah, baby. Dude, you're obsessed with this guy, but that's cool. Nobody knows who that is. Yeah, dog. The idea which I own 51%. Yeah, dog. Of course I know. That's a cool. That's a cool story. So you want to milk me? You want to milk me for more of my great ideas or something? Okay. Absolutely. They have a no zoot policy. I think that's obvious. Um, in all reality, uh, all advertising is good advertising. Um, Perhaps. But basically, like the thought is, you're gonna get that now. You get people who do that now, who put out content that a company doesn't like. I mean, do you not? Are you disagreeing? I think in the future it'll be just fine. Um, they're not going to promote it on their social media. That would just be some individual, and they're allowed to. People are allowed to do whatever they want. Okay. I mean, all of those are suitable options. I still think you could do it. Okay, if you put something that's super offensive out there, TikTok's gonna ban it. You don't have to worry about Coca-Cola banning them. I mean, okay. Um, but who's to say he won't? Doug, what? Doug, what? Why don't you make social media for your dog? Okay. Yeah, but like seriously, why don't you? Um. Well, you just do enough of it. You keep promoting it. The issue, though, is with the dog. You know, all good things must come to an end, and dogs aren't permanent. So, what do you do when the dog dies? I'm not saying Yellow has a nice long life ahead of her. I don't mean to put a negative, but you get what I'm saying. Like there is like that. What is it? Like Grumpy Cat. Grumpy Cat died, and like all the fucking famous animals end up dying. How hot is she? That didn't answer the question. Well, so this bitch is pretty hot. All right, that's tight. So you could have that lady follow your social media. Okay, what do you think you need to have a huge following? Okay, touche. Um, okay, so when are you gonna launch? Okay, cute. Okay, no, what? Yeah, I did, but what's the name of the company? What's the name of the company gonna be? That's the most fun part. So everybody knows that. But we've been through this. Iteration is worse than rhyme. Make this bitch rhyme. GoPro. Glad ad. That's it. Glad ad. Glad ad. Got a winner. I just said the winning name. It's over. The contest is over. Yeah. It's, uh, actually the best name ever. But that's two syllables. Uh, pun is the best. All right. So what are you thinking? What about promote me? Yeah, it's fucking brilliant. It's over. That's the name. might might be the best name ever. It might be the best name ever. I think promote me already has. I think promote me already has a thing. Okay. What about that sucks? Worst name ever. What about ClipCon? What about AdCon? I get, I get that. I get that. What if you just called it like cupcake or something? Yeah, cup upcake. How about upcake? That's a good name. It's a it's kind of a pun. Like you upvote it, you upcake it. Yeah. Yeah. And just positive. And dude, okay, so you spell it UPCKE. That's the name. Okay. You're not gonna get you're not gonna be able to get upcake.com. I've been to it. I've been to it. It's the best website ever. No, that's a great name, Upcake. I like it. Dude, it, I don't give a shit. How about just up? Dude, you're always gonna have some kind of competition. It's not Upwork. You have Linktree and LinkedIn, and so is Upcake and Upwork. They're totally different. Doug, Doug, Doug. I know what it is. You are not winning this one. Upcake and Upwork are as similar as Linktree and LinkedIn. It's very similar. In fact, I think I do. Yeah, you are you kidding? That's how you get jobs. LinkedIn, you go there to get jobs. Linktree, dog. It's fine. They don't have to be super similar. What about Twitter, TikTok, and uh Tinder and Tumblr? Those are all fucking the same. Tumblr, Twitter, and that worked. And they were basically very similar platforms. No, no, how about this? You YouTube and YouNow. YouNow is exactly like YouTube. Believe it or not, they have. That's my phrase, dog. Yeah, Upcake's no, it's not. It's not that close, dog. It's different, dog. Upwork's totally different. Upwork is a gig finding website. This would be an ad promotion website. And you can go to LinkedIn to find people's links. Come on, man. You're overthinking. You're fine. The name of it is up totally. Dog. Up. Upcake is the cutest name. That's fine. It doesn't need to. I mean, all the other stuff that's like promote me and that kind of shit were taken 30 years ago on the internet. You're not going to be able to get any of those. No, it's perfect. You could get up.cake. Dog. Dog. Just get up. Once you get big enough, you can buy upcake.com. Facebook didn't start as Facebook. It started as thefacebook.com because Zuckerberg couldn't get Facebook. That's already taken. That's already everything regarding the word real is taken. It was taken 30 years ago. Dog, Upcake is the name. It's perfect. It's super cute, man. It's better than I've heard on you. It's the best. That's number two. That's the silver medal of this bitch. Upcake is one. The greatest, the greatest social media platform of all time is number two. Very funny. Very, very funny. Are you proud of that humor? He's your humor mentor. No, it can do it all. We're done. All right. So Upcake's the name. It's beautiful. It's a wonderful name. Glad I own 51% of Upcake. watch. Watch. Now this would be so fucking funny. I do this thing with everybody on my stream, and I'm like, I did it with somebody yesterday for a German. Some guys in Germany wanted an idea for. They came with me with an idea, and I gave them a better idea. And they're like, "We're gonna run with that." I did not tell them that I own 51% of their business, but I do. But it'd be hilarious to me if, like, you wouldn't do this, but you pissed me off. And I'm just like, all right. And I sell 51% of Upcake. I just give it to Zoot. So now you have to deal with Zoot as your majority partner. Oh, it might be name one. What was this? Um. Hey, let's. I'm gonna think of. I'm gonna think of one idea that he's had that's been good. Oh, did you know he came in the other day and was like, "Did you know the other day, like a few hours ago? Did you hear Bonnie Blue's pregnant?" I told him congratulations. It could be one of 400 guys. Do you think it could be Zoo? Do you think that Zoo could make it as a father? No. Do you think he could make it as a father? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. What are your thoughts on Upcake? Let me look up if Upcake is anything already. If not, you might have to buy them out immediately. I'm sure somebody's come up with this name. It is a it's Upcakes are classic cupcakes iced upside down. All right, so that's not like you could still take that name for a marketing company. Not Wilson. I'm surprised you don't. You know, no, it's just a type of baked item. What's your favorite Nicki Minaj song? I'll wait. Super Bass. The name is Super Bass. No, the actual no Starships is the best one. That bitch can fucking rap. Is she your favorite rapper ever? Uh, maybe either Tupac or Puff Daddy. Yeah, dog, but nobody calls him P Diddy. It's Puff Daddy, dog. If you go old school people call him Puff Daddy. No, dog, that's how he started. He's in jail. Yeah, he'll get. You keep going with your mouth. You keep making like a popping noise. Yeah. What was that? Yeah. Oh, okay. Yellow, the famous dog from social media. Whatever happened there to yellow on red? Okay. Dog, I'm programming like a beast. So, yeah, actually, I kind of did better. Um, I'm going to do it on TikTok and um, why on TikTok? Because I keep getting flagged on Instagram, but that's okay. I made a better Instagram bot that live streams my life and then every hour uploads it. I've done this before, but Instagram changed it so that you needed to have at least um you needed to have at least 1,000 followers, but I figured out a way how to do it without that, so I'm pretty ingenious, I would say. So I can do it with just nobody. I hacked into Priscilla Chan's computer, that's Mark Zuckerberg's wife, and just fixed everything. So very, very, very amazing. Dog, I have so many recordings of this moment. I would tell him, dog, nobody gives a shit about you hunting pigs on your fucking remote island of Hawaii. They want you to fix your fucking app. There's not a single thing that you've ever created that has been successful. You had to buy everything or steal it. You stole Facebook from the Winklevoss twins. You had to buy Instagram for $1 million. Your fucking name of your company even failed. It couldn't even have it under Facebook, so you chose Meta, which sucks, and nobody's calling it that to the point where there are memes about it. On top of that, your Facebook Meta, uh, your Meta Oculus sucks. You, yeah, it does. It fucking, yeah. Oh yeah, you bought it. You bought it, Doug. I had one before anybody had one, and I'm telling you, it sucks. Yeah, but even that, Zuckerberg, even that, you fucking bought you bought Oculus, so you didn't even come up with that. Your new Meta Ray Bans suck. They were used in a fucking college football scandal, and on top of that, now you're getting. I'll get into it. You're getting sued for promoting Instagram to minors. For those reasons, I'm out. Now the thing about the no, he sucks. He sucks. No, he sucks. Don't even give him credit for that. Dog, he sucks. Do you know what it is to suck? You do if you know who Zuckerberg is. All right, dog. Now, the next thing, I wanted to know what happened. Basically, there was a team in college football that had one of its coaches basically use those Ray-Ban meta glasses to record the other team's plays at other games and stuff, and that's against the rules. So, anyway, Zuckerberg sucks. Everybody hates him. He's the worst. Yeah, apparently. Why defamation lawsuits? Okay. Shit's wild.
It depends, right? What is it about? If it's kosher ganash, Moshe pigs in the north, and if it's kosher Kalvin anywhere in the Azara, before you put on the ground, remember, yes, we have a Mishnah that talks about what happens if you shafted it on the Mizbeach itself, but that's not the norm. So why does the Pasuk frame it as the shafting your Kabbalos on the Mizbeach? So rather give
Riser. Riser.
rather than the Pasuk is the Allah. You shall shut on this Mizbeach. What it means is when you shut, when the Mizbeach is complete and not when
Riser.
that's the idea. So Allah means Shkita of Kabbalos is proper.
Listen to this bullshit.
Ultimately, again, the Kabbalah's are invalid. Why? Because the Pasuk says, "Zabachta Allah es Allah sefa es shalom." You shall shut on it. Your Kabbalahs. What does it mean? You shall shut on it. When the Mizbeach itself is intact, ultimately, again, you can shut Kabbalahs. But when it's not intact, any shkita of Kabbalahs is invalid. Rabbi Yochanan says, "No, echad zeh ve'echad." Rabbi Yochanan Amar, echad zeh ve'echad zeh psulim. Now, we'll say. Now, what does that mean? So Rav says, if you have a damaged Mizbeach and you shut Kabbalos, those Kabbalos are invalid. Rabbi Yochanan says, even if you designate Kabbalos, you didn't check them, you just provide Kabbalos, have a time ultimately again that Mizbeach, ultimately again, those Kabbalos are invalid. Rashi says, Echazeh ve'echazeh, it's the intermediate line lines. בין שנשחטו בשעת פרידים מהסעד, בין שנשחטו אחר תיקון הפסולים כל הקודשים, שהיו קידושים באוסו שעה, לפי שנינו ונתפסו לזה סיפרמוס. Therefore, Rabbi says, all the Kabbalos that you actually shed at the time that the Mizbeach is damaged are complete for use. So Yochanan says, even Kabbalos that you designate at the time that the Mizbeach was damaged, ultimately again, are also. He says that you want to technically order the argument out. Rav Savar Bali Chaim in a Nitrin, Rabbi Yochanan Savar Bali Chaim Nitrin. And what's an extremist concept deeply means once something ultimately again is set aside for non-use, it's no longer being use. So Rav says only something shifted can be Yitzchak, can be set aside for non-use. But if you just have a consecrated living animal, it's fine. Just wait to offer those and badly repaired. Rabbi Yochanan on the other hand says no. Even Bali Chaim, even living animals, is aside for non-use. And therefore, again, it designated the carbon at the time that the Mizbeach was unused, that animal itself forever becomes precluded for sacrificial use. That's the much focus. So basically, that's the catch. Holocaust, you actually live there on Mizbeach. Mizbeach HaKach, you have Mizbeach Psulim. Just now, watch this, because you watch this actually fascinating. Ultimately, again, all Kabbalah that you had, all animals that were designated as Kabbalahs, that wasn't out of consciousness, this sounds like the Trinity, as I think for Kabbalah in the flesh. So ultimately, again, if you had designated animals as Kabbalahs, or the second base on the first milk, and then the second base on the first milk, and those animals ultimately, again, are precluded from use. So the Gemara says, if we need to, one second, if we designated these animals when there's no place to make brush, aren't they set aside for non-use from the beginning? Ella actually, rather, here talking about Kabbalah, so ultimately we designated before the base of the brush was destroyed. Before the base of the brush was destroyed, now I'm saying, bring them when the second base of the brush was destroyed. So the Gemara says, "No, it's not Neros." Why I won't say because again, they would be aged out. Remember again, Neros is skill. Remember again, I will say, anything designated by the first base of the Dutch, the second base of the Dutch, right? So they stay along. They would be walking around. They're doing like sheepwalkers, whatever. They're not they're clearly going to be aged out from any type of use anywhere. However, actually, Mitzvah is there. The Ashaka Mitzvah is there. By the both sides, you must religious. Don't move out over here, and I'll look for myself. He went ahead and designated it. And then the base, and then his dad was damaged, right? And then you repaired it. At the time you repaired his dad, you can't cut off that part. Which seems to support the real world idea that Bali pioneered that even an animal designated as a carbon at the time that it did not produce forever because of its use or forever designated non use. That's what's happening. So okay, listen, cut the bad stuff. Okay, you can change the word because like you're just modifying the word and over here. Modify the word and say not about the animal was shocked. It was chassis, the whole thing, and then it is forever set aside. But it just you know, that's how we constantly living animals are not designated for non-use. So for example, this piece of animals are carbon. Now let's say again,
You could have an animal one sugar to jump into the total and have to go.
once the repair is there, you can go ahead and pump up that carbon. Whereas, let's say again, if the was damaged, you shafted the carbon, and now until you do the repair that day, by the time you shafted the carbon, it was not usable. Again, that carbon is forever set aside as well. So, living animal is not set aside. But a shafted carbon, if it can't be offered up as a kind of, it's forever set aside as well.
You could have an animal one sugar to jump into the total. Oh, it's multiple.
Let's say it's actually quite fascinating. Now, I walk for myself in last their question for us, and it's probably not there. It was probably from this place. Now she says, it's the Shanakar, it's the Greece, it was not like more than the pizza.
Workshop of the
So, join us in the silence.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Workshop of the
That's the difference. Technically speaking, is actually very interesting. Apparently, progress, right, instance offering can be done even without a mistake. What applications absolutely unequivocally require a fair and done without a mistake. So my question was this for the This is talking about, again, first base and the flush. First base and the flush, Shlomo Hamala. So the Pasuk says, it was on that day, this isn't a lot about it, it was on that day, he didn't stop the let's listen to this, give a little background. He's now, let's use less of us. He's there, cut on the head, cut on the head, let's go say, so now, but this is like this. Okay, the transcript is like that, Shlomo Hamala also speaks the word, and the base and the flush before, to be allowed to be used for...
These are the red ochre, the more rough ones are the ones in the Hypogeum. Incredibly old. Also a very good. Like it's
other cultures have that as well, right? Those spirals.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. So that right there is also in Newgrange in Ireland, like pretty much the same. It's
Right, but not just
slight
those
difference,
two places. There's some other places.
Yes, the swirling motif is one of the oldest. I mean, it is one of the oldest. It's everywhere. But the implication of it being about sound is very interesting when you find it represented in places that are absolutely acoustically tuned from prehistory. Yeah, dude, like, it's weird. There's another one in Peru called Chavin de Huanta, which is there's a temple built above it. This is another thing that you find. I mean, this one in Malta, they haven't done this, but you do definitely seem to find layering, like Gunung Padang in Indonesia, where you have like the original structure below and people are just piling up on top of it over time. So in Chavin de Huanta in Peru, you have this amazing temple site, but below ground is a labyrinth of corridors that also propagate acoustics to the point where it brings up infrasound. So below this is an infrasonic laboratory, essentially, of labyrinthian passages that we use for ritual acoustics. And they actually found inside of this conch shells that had been purposefully re-engineered to produce a new harmonic when blown into them. Like they had actually changed them into a different
so
type.
they go in the acoustic chambers
And below the conch shells, and someone would obviously be walking through this, perhaps as a form of rite of passage.
Could
But
you imagine going back in time?
I know, man. I really want
just
to.
being a fly on the
I
wall.
wish we could. Yeah, so that, it's not incredibly profound stonemasonry, but it does produce infrasonic reverberation. They have proven that. I looked it up. And yeah, the conch shells were found there that have got all of these designs on them and have been purposely changed to produce a different sound. So there is a clear lineage of acoustic science way before acoustic science was acoustic science, at least to our terms. So it brings up big questions. And the fact that it was influencing consciousness, I think that we just had an incredibly intelligent but shamanically orientated society at one point. We were using our human ingenuity.
They want to know.
We were using it to create effects more spiritually aligned than anything else. And these are all chambers for inducing expanded states of consciousness.
The real question, though, is what technology were they utilizing for construction? That's the real question, especially when you get to the megalithic stuff.
Yeah.
What were they doing? Like, what is this? Because this is not what we're saying it is. There's no way this is stone tools. There's no way this is copper. This is something nutty.
Well, that's why the knobs are interesting, because it almost seems like the stone was being softened, and perhaps like, if you were pulling a spoon out of hot toffee, you'd get that pullback, right? You get like a little kind of protrusion.
What, you want to smooth that down, though?
But they do, and then they don't. That's what's really weird about it, especially in Peru. Peru has so many stone knobs. Like there's a place in Peru called the Coricancha, which is like the kind of main temple in Cusco, the Sun Temple. And these precision, there's various layers of architecture in Peru, albeit it's all being attributed to the Inca, which is weird. Rough cut stonework, then the weird megalithic kind of smushed together stones. Then you have what's called stonework, which is where it's like if you look at it's spelled with a Q, Qorikaancha, Coricancha. If you look it up, like and looking, so you have to go inside it really to really get this. The bunkers inside of it. Look at the wall on the outside actually real quick before you do that. If you click on one of these images and just enlarge it. The first one's probably the best one. Yeah, so that's ashlar stonework. That bottom bit, that is original. This was built by the conquistadors, right? The rest of it's been built up by the conquistadors from Spain. But this original stonework is also represented inside with these incredible bunkers. So if you type in like bunker, it's got this image here, like the level of precision on these is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, we're talking just complete, precise fitting stones, not globular like saxowoman, like marshmallows, but just precise blocks. Like these bunkers here, like down here. This is all original work. And then they built a Spanish-inspired temple over the top of it.
So what you're asserting is that this was here first?
Yes, this stuff it was here first. Like this stuff was absolutely here first. And if you look up, there's a little nub, little stone nub right at the top there.
Yeah.
And but some of these walls have like 10 nubs on them, like one here, and then there's none. So it's like they were smoothing out some of them, leaving others. Some have speculated that it's a form of language because in Peru, the Inca, do you know what the Inca language was?